University. What's up? Did you grab a snack? Did you take a rest? Because we've got lots more esports coming right at you. It's time for some Overwatch. I'm here at the desk. If people are just joining us, who are you?
I'm a guy who forgot to get a snack.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Failure.
You're like, as
Never
soon as
mind,
you said
it doesn't
I was
matter
like,
who you are anymore. Fawn, who are you?
Hi, you just said my name, so that actually defeats the purpose of my introduction. I'm Fawn. Hey, go over here. Who are you?
I'm Blue, and I finally don't have to be the most clueless person up here because we're going to Overwatch, baby. Yeah, now it's my turn.
That's right, we are going right into these matches. We're starting with the #1 seed, Northwood University versus Savannah College of Art and Design. Fawn, I know you have a particular interest in this match.
Yes, I do, because SCAD is the university that it is that I graduated from. So I recognize a couple of those faces down there. I see some of them looking at the cameras and things like that as well. I definitely recognize some of those faces back during my university days as well. And it's nice to be able to see them here. They've definitely put in a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort. So we're supposed to remain unbiased, but it's hard for me to do that for the Bees.
I'm glad that you're at least revealing your biases, your conflicts of interest, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, Northwood University being the #1 seed, they're going to have somewhat of a challenge here. Blue, tell us a little bit about Northwood University. You've got the stories all down.
Oh, this is the demon. These people are going to be on demon time out there. They're the #1 seed. They've been ridiculously good. They are like the epitome of the greatest collegiate esports Overwatch that it can be. Unfortunately, they're missing a player, and it's a big player that won't be playing for them. It's Landon, who's actually playing for the London Spitfire this weekend in the Overwatch League. So that just goes to show what this team can do. They can take players and develop them into pro-level players. It was a Zenyatta player. Support kind of flexes to some of the DPS, which is why they play that Zenyatta. So Northwood's still a strong team. They've been taking out some really good competition through the bracket all day today so far. But again, they're going to have their hands full. I mean, you've got other teams out there that are looking to gun for them. So Northwood is still dangerous. I mean, in their last 10 events, 6 of those, they have won. And one of them was the Star League, the NACE Star League in the fall of 2021. So that's recent. And then they won the Collegiate Homecoming this year. They've also been in the World Championship many times. I know that last year they made the playoffs, they got second. They made the playoffs this year, they got second. They made the national championship last year, they got second. You go back even further, they've got more and more contenders players on their roster. They are the ones that keep winning championships, and when they don't win, they get top 2. It's very rare that we don't see them make a top 3 finish.
Tell them. Tell them about it.
Now, what is SCAD going to have to do to overcome a team with a record like that?
Win. It's easy. They got it.
Oh, yeah, easy. Okay, cool.
There's my analytics. There you go.
Hosting done.
crazy resume. And he's like, just win for it. It's fine, right?
Obviously. Right after that, we're going to have Illinois State University versus Harrisburg University, which is the #2 seed. I know they've got some interesting storied history as well.
Yeah, Harrisburg is really, really good, and I actually think they could win this event today because Landon's not here for Northwood. But again, Harrisburg, another disgusting roster. They have the DPS duo of Tap and Lethal, and excuse my pun here, but they are just lethal, and all they do is tap heads, right? They point and click. That's basically what they do. Tap actually has no experience at all in tournaments. They didn't play on any tournaments. They didn't play on any contenders teams. They didn't play on any like junior teams. They didn't play on anything. They just came out of the blue and they got signed to the Uprising Academy, which is Boston's junior team in the Overwatch League. Lethal was there too. So not only are they the DPS duo here for Harrisburg, but these two players have chemistry. They've played together and they were together on the Uprising Academy. One of them even got some Overwatch League action last season. They had to sub in a couple times, so they are looking really good. And also the Harrisburg right now, 2 seed, has gone up against the Northwood Giants a few times. They've beaten them, they've lost to them, and they only have one downside, and that's if Tap and Lethal aren't going crazy, then they lose because they need the rest of the team to step up.
Alrighty. Anything to say about Illinois State? Do you think they stand a chance?
They do stand a chance. They are the #3 seed. If you look on the other side of the bracket too, Bay State was the #4 seed. They ended up losing to SCAD. So your #5 seed SCAD is showing some promise. They did take down the 4. But other than that, you see the 1, 2, 3 seed making it to the the next round. And Illinois State is pretty good as well. They have a solid roster. They I believe they like to play a lot of dive comps, and that's okay. That's something that we're seeing a lot more right now. But there's another comp style called Rush, and it's a little bit different than Dive. And I think Rush is the comp that a lot of teams are having a lot more success with right now. Except for Harrisburg. Harrisburg has to kind of change up their comps a little bit, especially on escorts, because that's really where they have a weakness. They play really, really good offense on escort, but they always start off on defense because they know that's their weakest side. They allow too much space being taken for those payloads from their opponents. So that's really where they have to make up the lost time or the lost space that they kind of, because your DPS cannot carry your escort as much as you would like. Like, someone's got to contend that payload. Has to be your tanks. They got to be up front. They have to take most of the damage. And the tanks from Illinois State play very well. So if they have to go up against Harrisburg, that it could come down to the escorts and the payloads. That's really where Harrisburg could struggle. But other than that, I think Harrisburg takes that one slightly over Illinois State. But I think they have a solid roster and could contend.
Fawn, if somebody was just watching Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and they're like, yeah, I'll watch some Overwatch too, maybe they're not familiar with the game, what should an audience member look for? What are going to be the really exciting things happening in these matches?
So one of the biggest things that I wanted to play off sort of with Blue was the fact that he had mentioned two different compositions. One was Dive, the other one was Rush. And ironically enough, one of the more prominent characters that you'll see throughout this match is something like Lucio, right? You'll see Lucio. Mora is great at sort of sustaining and sort of having that skirmishy sort of play style as well. Some of the top characters in the game right now. If you're a new audience member that's like, once again, like just sort of tuning in and watching Overwatch, a lot of this is very team-based gameplay. You can see it go a little bit slower. While crew battles are a team thing, it's not as involved as having like a 6v6 matchup, right? So it's something that you have to keep in mind. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening up and on the screen, but I know our commentators definitely got it. It's going to be a lot of stuff. It's definitely a big jump from Smash to Overwatch for sure.
All right, I have to ask. I mean, it seems like maybe your predictions are clear, but tell me, who do you think is going to win these next couple matches?
SCAD.
All of them?
Yes.
Even the ones they're not playing in?
Yeah,
they're just going to take them all.
Absolutely.
That makes sense to me, honestly.
Yeah,
what
check
about
my bias and
not to sound biased, but Blue?
I'm going to take Northwood in our first matchup, Northwood versus SCAD, although SCAD making it here is already an accomplishment for them. I mean, being the number 5 seed, being a 4, that's not a huge upset, but still, nonetheless, Bay State was a really good team. I mean, they have a good Smash team. I was looking forward to seeing their Overwatch team, but fortunately, they'll be in the lowers. But I got Northwood in the first one, Harrisburg in the second. I think Harrisburg versus Illinois State will be very close, but I think Northwood versus Harrisburg is really what we're here for, and that will be the closest matchup all day.
I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go with SCAD with my boy here, and then we're going to take Illinois State because Taps and Lethal are not going to pop off, and the other ones aren't going to stand up, and I'm going to go with the bottom seeds because
love that.
Difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, because
I really know what I'm talking about. That's why I didn't talk for 5 minutes straight there. I'm here as a fan of Overwatch. I think it's cool to just be able to sit back and be educated by these guys. And I think something you were telling me about Harrisburg that I really enjoy is how they do their recruiting process. Like, they have hands worldwide all across the world.
Yeah, they've got, I mean, Lethal used to be from Dubai, if I'm correct, was playing on 200 ping in EU, and then moved to Turkey. Now they're here. Then you've got players from the US, and then you have players from Canada, and then they've gotten players from Brazil and Netherlands, which is really reaching all across the globe. So this is not just recruiting nationally, this is recruiting worldwide, and it shows. They're number 2, and they can play.
You know, that is what I love about esports, is that there are people here from all over the globe. Another thing I love about esports is sponsors that allow us to play our games. So huge thank you to Control, Barbasol, and Oakley up here on the desk with us. But you've spent enough time up here on the desk with us. It's time to get right into this game. Hello, casters. Take us into Overwatch.
Thank you so much. That's right, baby. It's time for a little bit of Overwatch. My name is Dora. I'm joined by the always fantastic Dryad, and we've got a great set of matches for you. The 3 big dogs that came into this tournament, Northwood, ISU, and Harrisburg, are all now a little scared because I'm looking at SCAD right now, and even Northwood was expecting fully for Bay State for that to go the other way.
Absolutely, the biggest upset that we had today, and we don't even know how far SCAD's going to continue getting. I think that's the scariest thing about this match, right? Because it looks so intense. We got to hear a little bit of the analyst desk, right, talking about these players, talking about the surprises that we have at SCAD. But on the other side, right, Northwood, a team that has been relatively consistent on a match like this one in that collegiate level to this point. One of the teams that we definitely expect to get to that top 3. So now it's just a matter of them actually making it happen.
Yeah, I was talking to him just down on the stage not but a couple seconds seconds ago, and again, I cannot overstate how big of a difference this is for them. They've been expecting Bay State. They've been reviewing Bay State VODs.
Yeah.
And now it's SCAD who's come to land and is playing really hot. Talking to SCAD just after their match against Bay State, I mean, they were all excited. Every last one of them thinks they're playing hot.
You have to be. Like, how can you not?
Yeah.
It's also something that we have to take into account, right? The preparation time that SCAD had when you're a team that might be a little bit of an underdog, has to prepare for everyone equally. And that's maybe a difference when you're a team like Northwood. You're expecting specific teams that might put you against the wall, that might put a challenge into your team. So when you're adapting to all of those, that is what we want to see from SCAD. We want to see those strong composition that they want to bring from the beginning and see actually how comfortable they feel making that game their own.
So let's zoom in and let's start talking a little bit about rosters here. Let's go through the big dogs first of Northwood, lining up the DPS line, Boat and Dynasty for tanks, Seasons and Cowman, and for supports, Lep coming in for Landon, as was mentioned earlier by Blue, and then Yamitra is going to be shifting over just within the support role in order to make a little bit more room for that. But this team is lined stacked full of incredible talent. But I'm looking at the tanks in particular, Seasons and Cowman, who have to go up against the likes of Skiz on the other side.
And this is a team as well, and those things as well that we've seen in that contenders level and those trials levels that we are often seeing, but recently knowing that the Overwatch scene has turned a little bit more into collegiate, supporting collegiate, all these players joining that collegiate scene means that we have a lot of amazing players like them in that timeline, and they have a massive role today, right, leading the rest of the team, making those calls as well right on time, and seeing how much, again, how much benefit they can take from the beginning. I feel like especially for SCAD, right, that momentum that they get at the beginning can turn into something more because they already have that energy. They're already so hype of how far they've been able to make it today.
They didn't expect to be up on the main stage, but here we are, and here's Northwood. This match should play out pretty interesting, though. Because of SCAD's lineup, Skiz being a pretty notable Reinhardt and Winston player, we've seen them run a good bit of six-man in the past on the control points and trying to run rush virtually everywhere else, whereas Northwood, look, I don't use this word lightly, a little bit cringe. They play a lot of double shield.
Look, if the double shield works, I'm going to say, if the double shield works, then go for it, right? It's a couple maps, right? As long as not every map, as long as we keep a little bit of variety, I feel like I can see them running this today. I can see them running it in this match. And it's a double shield that, you know, again, if you're able to synergize with your tanks, that's all that you got to need.
Well, still notable shield for now. We're starting things out on Ruin. Seasons lining up on the Reinhardt, Cowman on the Diva. Skiz and Donnie on the other side, but Snappy and Copy Mouse backing them up is quite a talented support line to start things up already. Starting to surround this team, get that Sombra charge up. You're always going to be watching for this EMP. That's really the timer that for the time SCAD are going to be playing on, so losing this fight is somewhat expected, but Northwood are doing it in efficient fashion.
Yeah, at least they're going to make it fast here to get a little bit more working on once they're able to come back. And because of that, we're going to be seeing Seasons pushing forward, right? Trying to contest, trying to rush that style a little bit more exactly in the way that they synergize and they play together before, right? So now we see that change. No more Winston. It's another Reinhardt. It's another Diva. And we see a lot more of a similar composition coming up.
Yeah, it's really painful to make this swap in second fight, though, because they're going to be behind in ultimates now basically forever through the entire rest of this map. But that doesn't matter, because Copy Mouse got a great pick to open things up onto Lep. Countering, though, those ultimates do start coming into play. A Fire Strike through an Ant Matrix to put an end to the dreams of SCAD.
They don't even have to use the Shatter, right? And that's a good way to start it off. You gain that fight, you gain the momentum, and again, you're just rushing against the enemy, taking advantage of not having the ultimate for the enemy team, forcing that changing off position, and then having even more of that Shatter to use into the next fight. Is 40%, that 40, and those long fights turn into even more.
Yeah, one of the big things you're looking for is efficient ultimate usage, and boy, oh boy, did Northwood have that. Throwing in a bomb, and easily collecting 3 on the way out.
There's no way. It came out of nowhere. 3 kills already to start it off. And again, that Shatter not used, that Deadeye as well not used, and you're just stacking more ultimates for this team that they're able to push forward even further. And it seems like on the other side, they can't even find an answer yet.
It's going to be hard because even more of those ultimates are up. That one bomb found 3 kills. It was so efficient that this one is now even harder for SCAD. That is not to say that they can't do it. Opening up with 1, the Shatter immediately goes on the backline, but it will be blocked. Skiz getting the better of Seasons, and now finally the revenge of SCAD as they make their way towards the point.
and trying to find something, a little bit of space, but that's not going to be possible. The 1-1 condition that seemed like an opportunity there was amplification, then shatter, with Snappy getting taken down. Just denies any possibilities. Sound Barrier as well, aggressive at the end, and makes it alive just longer for Shiz going down.
Yeah, this is a fantastic stagger coming out from Northwood. It's going to give them a good bit percentage more on the point. And you know what? You're looking for 99 here, not necessarily a point cap. And I think they're going to get their 98. That's the 99. In fact, they get a kill on top of it. This is a dangerous situation. Though the final ultimate will be laid down by Snappy. The bar has been set. Implication Matrix on point to defend the last of what SCAD holds in precious map control. But as that goes down, it slowly slips from their grasp. Back are Northwood, and with a vengeance.
Northwood coming up, different composition at the end. Those tanks have to change, they have to get there fast, and there's the Wrecking Ball Seasons doing the job at the end, gets the team to 100%, and allows them to get a little bit more to work with. This is the Northwood that we expected, and this is the Northwood that is actually delivering right from the beginning.
And I mean, we saw the effect of the ultimates in general just come in the second that SCAD swapped.
Yeah.
Swapping second fight is, it's really, really, really painful to do, and especially on a control point where you can see teams like Northwood just punish those kind of, I won't call it a mistake because, of course, the dive wasn't really working out for them, but nevertheless, still punishing what is something that they had to do in order to get back into the game.
It is the best possibility that you have, right? Sometimes the teams, they want to keep that Winston, they want to keep that dive to see how far they're able to make it, to try to get that primary right as well, but if it's not working, at least making that first change is a good possibility, but control, like you said, it gets so difficult to catch up.
Now heading on to the next map, it's going to be a swap over for Northwood. Out comes the Seasons Ball, and this one's a little special. The Cowman Hog, feared by many a ranked player. This guy has terrorized virtually everyone over 4K's Qs, and it's not a fun time, I can tell you, from the receiving end. Alone, opening up on your Mitra, though, does give them at least a foothold within this fight, but it's certainly not a win yet.
And it's a composition that is really interesting on this side of Northwood, right? You have to synergize very well, knowing that the Echo is going to be playing up, the Wrecking Ball Major League trying to bring a little bit of support, but everyone else has got to get the kills individually. He's got to get that support, and that is exactly what they get. Potentially upon control, but it's being contested early by SCAD.
Looks like they're not giving SCAD quite enough credit here, though. The rush comp has made it to the point. This is where they want to be, because now they have to come to them. Northwood must engage onto SCAD should they want to take this point. It's really difficult. Cowman's trying to close that gap, but immediately gets burnt down by the likes of Skiz, and now onto the point they can go.
And closing a little bit of space, right? That's the win condition that we see so far for SCAD, to get that point control early on and to be able to take those duels. Having a Mei as well, that makes the job so much easier. And finally, we're seeing a reset coming up. Now, I want to see Dynasty. I want to see the duplicate a little bit more, having another tank on top of your Wrecking Ball that is about to have that ultimate and having even more to work with for that space control that they're fighting with.
I mean, ultimates are a big opportunity here, right? The only one up right now for SCAD is Alone, but if they found Kaimount, I mean, that's practically in and of itself. But the one thing you gave up in doing that is now you've given up the point. No longer is the Reinhardt on the point. The Reinhardt has to engage again, and they're engaging into the mine. They're not where they want to be. Alone is out in the open, and oh, so vulnerable for Left to knock off the map. Kabimas gets one in return, but this is far from over as Kabimas lays down a sound barrier in order to keep his team alive just a little bit longer.
And turning into a 5-5, it looks a little bit risky, but they make it happen at the end. Vicer that is able to take down that Baby Diva towards, but 60% is everything that's countering here, and the whole hog that wants to be denied, trying to run away. Kalman fighting for his life, and it seems like it's not going to be possible for that fight, and SCAD, you're just running away with it 70%.
No, it's a Skiz gap. It's a Skiz gap. That's all it is. Canceled. Charging into whole hog is virtually suicide, like 99% of the time. Just does it. Cancel the whole hog in its own right, wins the fight. It's that easy.
And everyone was staggered at the end, right? So the possibilities as well, not even 1% so far that Northwood has been able to get into this one.
Oh, he's got a shatter, and he looks pissed! There he is, laying down the opposing Ryan. The flashbang doesn't connect from the Cassie, but the sound barrier does. A beautiful re-engage from Leppin. This is the kind of support you're looking for if you're Northwood. It only gives them a new lease on life, however, it doesn't exactly win the fight for them. Now they've got some control of the point, and Seasons about can start to do work with it.
Just get 2 kills, the Cassidy, and finally it seems like that point control will belong to Northwood, but they fought for it. They have to change the composition. And again, it's one of the difficulties when you're having that Wrecking Ball. You can have a lot of communication issues. Changing it to that rush makes the job for this team a lot easier. Now has the shatter to work with, and this is something that we saw in the last map, right? He was able to run with it. He was able to sell those ultimates, to layer them one by one, but at the end, on the other side, SCAD, they only need one fight.
All it takes is one, but they don't have any ultimates. The shatter blocked by a wall. Nicely done there. Unfortunately, not enough to face down the wrath of Northwood.
Yeah, that's a clean fight. No opportunity, shatter with no value. But at the end of the day, everyone waiting for that fight and fast engagement, you know, having that Lucio, making it happen and getting to a little bit more. It seems like this is this scenario when we saw Northwood, they had to change the composition, they had to change a little bit of the tank line, but I don't really see that happening for SCAD at this point, right? So they're gonna continue trying to go for the engagement, especially with that sound barrier coming up.
I mean, they're still working with boost stance here as well in terms of ultimate. Just a Deadeye and a sound barrier to get into this one, whereas Yamitra can counter with an amplification matrix of their own, and now the dupe comes out. The DPS ultimates begin to be laid on the floor for Northwood, but they haven't quite won anything yet. Yamitra's down, and down goes Seasons as well, just laid out by Skiz. It's gonna be SCAD taking the point back, and likely the point with it.
They're just trying to touch a point one by one, the last opportunity here, but the overtime and you know, the timing when everyone got taken down just fades away those opportunities. Is the point going to SCAD? And a control map that is already looking pretty close, and that is exactly what I wanted to see, right? Teams wanting to make those changes on the fly. And it is a difficult thing to do, but it comes out with the results that SCAD was looking for.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I was talking a little bit with Northwood earlier, and Cowman does love himself a little bit of fun. He teased that he would be playing some Hog, and they even played it in OWCC. But it is not exactly the pick they break out when they respect their opponent. Bringing the Hog and Ball lays down the law, says, you know what, we're here to play, and we don't think you can take us. Well, SCAD's responded.
And that is the reply. There's also that replay from the US Air Force that we get to see all the shatters as well. It seems like it's always a highlight with these two main tanks, right? It's the main tank difference, and I heard them yelling a little bit earlier and about those main tank difference, that Ryan diff that you can bring. But now when the composition's changing a little bit, I know you talked about the double shield. It's not going to be quite that, but that Risa is going to have some importance into this one.
I mean, for Well in particular, breaking out a Risa Hog is much more common than you'd expect Hog on other maps because that obnoxiously large pit. Reinhardt is not played here particularly often because, as you see, left on the Lucio is just rotating this Orisa around. We're playing Ringer on the Rosie. Skiz can't get on top of Seasons for the life of them. They're going to continue playing that exact game until they're on the receiving end of a punch from Dynasty.
And it's a good job. I'm usually very hesitant when we get into those Doomfists, right? But as long as you're synergizing that team together to enable those Doomfists for success, that's when we see moments like this one where Northwood, they get the point first, they're going to create that space as well, and having that Risa just going to enable them to do even more.
Yeah, and keeping them at arm's length is now the name of the game, right? We want to keep this Reinhardt away from us. We want to keep Boat throwing arrows at their backline, and we want them to make positional mistakes over time that Dynasty can punish with the punches. You see Boat already standing pretty far back. All it takes is one arrow to ruin the afternoon of SCAD, but I think they've sniffed him out. They know exactly what's going on. Be careful here. Teleporting up top is not safe. Backed up half Northwood. And they'll even use the amplification matrix here. They've rotated around the other side of the point. Again, keeping them at arm's length always is the game plan. Amplification matrix going to continue to help them do so. Following that, though, there's no more ultimates left on the field. Northwood have to fight SCAD, and they're more than happy to as Dynasty cleans up 2 to open up the fight.
And they can't get close, they can't get any extra protection. Immortality invested, immortality wasted, and with that, another fight that Northwood is able to get. It starts a little bit slower because of what you mentioned. That is that Risa trying to create that space against that rush composition that the side of SCAD they want to play. But if you can get close, that means it's time for change. And that is why we see that Moira coming up, trying to play a little bit faster, trying to get closer to the enemy as soon as possible, because that percentage, it just keeps going up, and Dynasty has ult, and we can also see a whole haul coming up.
Cowman's on the flank. This is what I was talking about. Your ranked games aren't ready. Lilith wasn't ready either. Down they go, and Cowman claims another, puts another notch in their belt. Skiz looks like he's having absolutely just the worst time, but no! An Uno reverse card has been played, and down goes Seasons. Skiz still low in health, though. Still not exactly the greatest of times. They try and fight their way out of the side room, and Donnie's doing a pretty good job of helping them do that.
And it was 3 ultimates invested, right? The perfect opportunity for SCAD to capitalize out of it. And some dragons as well, they do get snappy. So the fight gets a little messy. It's 96, and it seems like it was so close with SCAD. They haven't been able to take the point.
I mean, Skiz is running around like a T-Rex with his stubby little arms, not able to reach anything. Yamitra's just out of reach. Dynasty's out of reach. Boat's out of reach. As Reinhardt's struggling to find value. He's a walking ult battery for the time being, but still yet, they're able to trade back kills. I believe Northwood are giving him a little bit too much pressure, not focusing on the other players than the Reinhardt, and then staying alive. Seems to be able to do a lot, but still, this point belongs to 99% of the overtime wick burning down. That looks like map number 1 going their way, but still SCAD have touches.
Almost.
Almost.
Almost. It's so close, but so far at the end. And, you know, when you don't even get a little bit of percentage, this is one of those maps that can turn into a nightmare. You go again and again, you're getting taken down. And it just builds into more ultimates that we got to see. Yes, it was risky when we saw the 3 ultimates by Northwood. It was both of the tank ultimates, one of the support ultimates as well that we got to see them getting taken down. But trying to make it even, trying to touch a point at the end of the day, and that is what gives them that first map.
Yeah, and it's that coordination that we were talking about earlier that's really been the kicker for Northwood. One of the big plays I don't think we caught in the USAF replays was that 3-man bomb, but it's not just the 3-man bomb. Oh my gosh, is it this? Is it right here? I think we're about to catch it. Anyways, pay attention here, because the bomb gets a kill on an immortality field, but the Doomfist knocks everybody up out of it.
Yeah. It's so clean. It's so clean. That coordination that you have to have at this point as well, right? It's something that we love to see every single time, and it is enabling plays like this one to happen because we know when we hear self-destruct, the chances of it getting 2-3 kills are not that many, right? There's so many counters. You can protect yourself a lot with those shields, with that immortality, but that timing as well does everything for them.
So now heading into map number 2. SCAD's kind of seen the whole smorgasbord of what Northwood have to offer. They've played up against Season Zarissa. They've played up against the Cowman Hog, which is something that not many people have the unfortunate circumstance of doing. But they still, I guess, haven't seen the Sigma, but they played up against the Ryan. So all the cards are out on the table. If you're SCAD, what are you looking to do?
Well, right, that's one of the things, right? In a map like Helios, we usually start with a Legion Tower. We usually start with other control maps that enable specific compositions to be played. But now, it was kind of a mix of everything, like you said. So going to the map number 2, that is when we see a little bit more comfort being played. Now, you're not playing so much for the map. You're playing a little bit more into what we've seen from Northwood throughout. And, you know, potentially, I know you mentioned that double shield. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it.
I think they're holding back on us. I think that's exactly what's
happening.
happening.
It's definitely going to happen at some point, right?
Yeah. I mean, Cowman saw well as well, and it's just like every quick play warrior just has like that bone in them where they've got to lock it in. It's just like, it's too easy. Hook people into the pit, and it's you do the funny, and past that point, it's about all they got. But the double shield likely is on the back burner for the time being. SCAD, on the other hand, I was really surprised to not see them run 6-man. I think they started out on it, at least for the first map, but then immediately jumped off before the Sombra got any ultimate charge, and it's really a competition you have to have some faith in. The Reinhardt does play fairly well into it, but it certainly looked better than what was happening on that final map.
And I want to say for SCAD, and again, just following the narrative of how far they were able to, you know, how surprised we are that they've been able to make it after passing base state, is the fact that you have to adapt on the fly in a lot of these situations. And I feel like we got to see it, right? This team seems like they're trying to adapt on the fly, while on the other side is a Northwood that they are the ones being a little bit less reactive, just knowing exactly what is going to work out for them and what they're going to run from the beginning. So if we're going to see changes right in the middle of the map, right, you know, depending on the points as well that we jump to, I'm just leaning towards seeing that the patient coming up for the side of SCAD. The question is it going to be enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about swapping mid-map, that was something that we saw, kind of the dichotomy between these two teams, right? A direct comparison in how they did it. When SCAD made their initial swap off of the 6-man, they did it a little bit too quickly, right? It put them at a massive ultimate disadvantage that ended up turning into an entire point being capped. When Northwood swapped off of Hog and Ball, it was just at the right time. They were tracking the opponent's ultimates, making sure that when they swapped, it wouldn't be at a massive disadvantage. And that's the kind of level of play that you're looking for from these players who have been in contenders, who have seen the top, who have been to these finals, who have been on these stages.
It's preparing for everything to happen, and that's something that you get in streams. That's something that you get in tournaments like this one as well. You know that you get taken down, you're not going to have the speed to come back. You're not going to have that Lucio ready to taxi you back to the point. So what you do, you go into that Wrecking Ball, you go into the last heroes that we got to see from them, and you're able to catch up. And again, I just feel like it's a little bit more of that reaction side so far on the side of SCAD that might be leaving them behind. Instead, right, if we saw composition from them a little bit more decisive right away, I feel like the story could have been completely different.
Yeah, and you know what the nice part about this is they do get the map pick now, right? They get to take this where they want to. They get to play the composition that they want. I don't think there's any way you can really guarantee what Northwood are going to play. They could come out on the double shield. They could come out on poke rush if they wanted to. They've got a lot of tools within their tool belt, but you can at least make it a comfy experience for yourself. I suspect for SCAD, that means playing a bit more of the rush, especially just trying to get Skiz's Reinhardt out on the field, allowing Kabimas and the support line up there to support him and put the team behind that. Allow them to make space and then work with that.
And one of the things as well, and in collegiate Overwatch that we get to see all the time, right, is that rush. It's just a classic that we get to see so often because it's one of the easier compositions to synergize. So that means that you can get really good at it if you have that really good main tank, which is something that we talked about. Both of the teams have it. So it's now a different of how you're going to be countering actively and the way that Northwood has been doing constantly. But now, like you said, map pick coming in for the sub-SCAD, and the narrative can change a little bit. That is exactly what we want to see, though. We want to see those 3 maps at least for this match being played.
Yeah, and if you're going to talk about rush, there's an elephant in the room. By elephant, I am quite literally meaning it. This man is large. He is in charge. It's Gig for ISU. If you're going to be playing Reinhardt, there is one measuring stick that you have to be put up against, and every single main tank that has gone up against him yet in this tournament tried to play Reinhardt has been on the receiving end of that beat stick that he carries around. And Gig is not going to take this lightly. Should Season, should Skiz step up, so they've got to prove their worth in this one.
They're going to prove it, and they're going to also have to bring surprises. And that's another factor in a tournament like this one, right? You have to bring new things all the time. You have to adapt on the fly all the time. And we've seen it for both of the teams, but it gets harder and harder the more that they get to play. And there's so many factors to take into account, including that mental game in it. Like what I see so far coming in on the side of the defense, right? It's a little bit more of the composition that we talked about. It's having that Reinhardt, it's having that Mei. But what I want to see is that proper isolation of targets that I feel like we didn't get to see in Ilios. Now is how you take advantage, and I want to see how Northwood is preparing for this one.
Yeah, Northwood obviously not fully bringing this competition out unless they really want to teleport a Bastion. It's a possibility. Look, I've seen it in many a plat game, but Boat will only stay on it for so long. Does he go on top of Top Hat is the question. Oh my god, they do. It's not with the Sigma though, so this is a little bit less effective. Those Seasons is a one-way ticket on top of Skiz, and also a one-way ticket right back to spawn following that wall.
It almost worked, right? You get a couple picks, but like you said, no having a Sigma, no having that protection as well makes it so much harder for the Bastion to get more value. Finally, he does get taken down. Now, surely it's a matter of time before we see the change coming up for Northwood.
I mean, Dottie just gave up the Glock. That probably didn't feel good to be on the receiving end of. And still, yet, the spawns do eventually come back. Northwood have space, but they don't just have the numbers to do this one.
And having to back half, trying to create that space, but again, respecting that defense that is coming back. Has a Mei, you cannot allow that Reinhardt to be isolated and taken on 1 by 1. This is why we see Kings Row losing for so many teams.
All right, Skiz is attempting to take on the likes of Seasons, but Cowman has grabbed. This is the trump card to end all trump cards in Overwatch. Seasons following up with the Shatter. That's that lovely bit of damage they added on top of it, making it an actual viable grab combo tool.
And it does seem like it's going to be a pause after all that action and a little bit more control that finally the side of Northwood was able to take. And we got to talk about the compositions. We saw the changes at the end. No more Bastion. It was more of a Cassidy being brought. And it's a nice one. It's a nice one, right? It's a Cassidy that we get to see often. Sometimes it's able to go on the flank. And I feel like if there's a team that is able to enable this Cassidy for the flank, especially on that street phase, it's got to be Northwood.
Yeah, and watching back the VODs of SCAD during OWCC, it was Alone playing a lot of this Cassidy and getting a ton of value, being able to put the team on his back and find those important picks that you're talking about to find value. But there's another kind of elephant in the room with these compositions. It's the tank lines. As controversial as it may seem, as obvious as it may seem, Ryan Zarya just doesn't do it these days. There's a reason we play Diva.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but Cowman's running it, and Cowman does have a formidable Zarya. It's up to the Diva, though, to show us those differences. It's up to SCAD and their tank line to prove that, hey, you know what, this is better, and we know exactly how to use those better tools in order to counter it.
And it can be a little bit of a comfort pick, like you said. Recently, we just see Diva and Diva all over again, and there's so many reasons, right? You're able to not only complement that Reinhardt and be able to play in that front line with the Reinhardt, but you're also able to play back, support your healers as well, and make sure that they're staying alive, that they're staying well, in case they're a little bit slower, that they're in trouble. And this is something that the Diva is able to try to do on the other side all the time. So it depends. On the street phase, it can work, especially with the grab, to get even more, to get those combos that we love to see with the grab. It's just, is it actually happening?
I mean, the grab combo, you have so many more tools now, right? Between the Blizzard you can come out with, you can combo with Cassie, you can combo with the Reinhardt. And the Reinhardt's the big one that we saw just end that fight, right? They added the damage onto Shatter now.
It's not quite the grab dragons, but it's still...
It hurts.
It
You
hurts.
don't want to be on the receiving end of it.
It definitely hurts.
I think we saw 2 players go down to it, but it'll certainly ruin your day quicker than anything else. And they did a great job of focusing down the Immortality field before they let that critical ultimate rip. Now the question is, where are the spawns for SCAD? We don't quite have the game up yet, so we can't tell. But how far back are the spawns for SCAD? Will Northwood get to push this choke for free? And can SCAD get them back through it to get that critical point of the map back in their control?
And also pass that corner, right, into street phase after. And if that actually takes place, that's when teams start to mess up with the tempo a lot more. And it can snowball into pretty much a nightmare for that defense. So I'm going to see if they were getting that first fight. No one else able to touch. It's pretty much given to them after we come back from that pause. I don't know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's no problem for the teams. In fact, if I'm SCAD, I'm pretty happy about this. This gives you time to relax, track ultimates, figure out where your spawns are. It's a very discombobulating situation to be, just being reset from first to second point like that. They're able to collect themselves, figure out exactly what they want to do. Do you think they come out with any swaps, though? It doesn't seem likely, but they've got to figure out something against Zarya.
Right, they've done it. They brought up those changes, and it's something that we talked about, right? If it's a team that is going to be bringing those changes from point to point, it's got to be them. I still think the composition is good, right? The composition with the Mei, something that I love to see, but like I mentioned early, it relies so much on being able to properly isolate that main tank and bait him into pushing forward so you can take him down. And so far, Northwood, they're not gonna fall for it, right?
No, and one of the big through lines that I've noticed throughout all of this is just the ability of Northwood in the longer fights and the extended fights. When things get sloppy, Northwood are more organized, even if it doesn't look like it. They know when they can fight for a point. They know when they can fight for an overtime, and they're not overestimating themselves. They're just confident in their ability to do so, and SCAD is sometimes overcommitting, right? Sending a few too many ultimates into a fight that's already lost, and it's at the end of those fights, whether it be scrapping it out and trying to pull together bits of a fight that looked a little rusty to start things off, or whether it's using ultimates too late. Those are the differences that you notice over time. The ultimate economy that we talked about in map 1 that was so important for Northwood, that's where it comes from.
Is the ability of being able to play back sometimes and play a little bit more relaxed. You might have the fight as well, but you have to play a little bit more for that timing as well. That can become so important in a map like this one too. You're trying to waste as much time as you can from the enemy team, and that is one way to do it.
Yeah, and again, this is, I mean, just a test for both of these teams, right? Northwood coming in, playing some Reinhardt. Should they go up against the likes of ISU? Mirroring Gig is, like I said, no small task. I think they bring out the double shield a little bit more often, but map picks like Kings kind of force you into these kind of things. And as we come back from our pause, looks like we're starting things once over. I'm not sure if they're going to get first point or not, but either way, I do think these teams have a wonderful amount of respect for each other. So Northwood, I think, are just being generous, if nothing else, and giving this one back.
And they're going to be bringing that same Bastion, it seems like, for the side of Northwood. Yeah, again, it can become really, really predictable, really risky as well. If you're going to bring it, especially in that same map, especially, you know, not even 10 minutes being able to pass. But now I'm bringing a little more in the defense and seeing if that's able to help them out more.
You know what, I think it's more surprising if you do it twice in a row. I think bring out the Bastion. Who in their right mind expects it twice? Look, Boat. Yeah, Boat gets what I'm talking about. Dimitri and Lep, though, bringing out what they can. Calman will see if he can find an opening pick here with a hook. This pick likely will not stick. However, oh my god, they're doing it twice. Yes! See, look at this. Look at this. Easy 6K for Boat, guaranteed.
Are you sure?
100%.
Are you sure?
This Bastion is going to get so much value. Boat is, I mean, he's doing work, and Calman's working his way along the side lane. Does drop down relatively low, but now you begin to face the wrath of the Bastion. You can start breaking through that wall pretty quickly. He's got a lot of support to help him out, but not enough to save him from the receiving end of Fire Strike from Skiz.
I did not see the 6K. I didn't even see 1K for the Bastion.
It was just too fast. You blinked.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I just missed it. I just closed my eyes for a second. But now, yeah, again, the changes that we talked about, like Cassie now being brought up, the Bastion not working, becoming a little too predictable, and now is when we see the defense. and maybe a little bit of a way that they've been able to adapt. Again, I'm going to see the isolation for that Reinhardt, giving it a little bit more of a challenge for them and wasting as much time as possible for this attacking side. They just want to go in, especially with that Doomfist coming in.
Northwood are playing musical heroes at this point. I've seen everything under the sun. Seasons again getting aggressive though. Alone trying to say, get out of my lawn, and you know what? He does. Down goes the health bar, and only one of these teams has a man tank. That's a massive advantage for the likes of SCAD, who are easily going to step back onto the point and finish things off.
And cleaning things up one by one, both at the end, managing to feel like just for a little bit longer thanks to that immortality feel, but it seemed like it was enough. 2 kills out of nowhere. Lily does go down, and that forces everyone on the defense now back.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call an overextension. Going a little bit too far into hotel. Oh no, what on earth is happening here? A sound barrier, 4v6 coming out from SCAD. It feels like an ultimate going right down the toilet, and a very important one at that.
That was a both beginning and end of the fight that was able to really make a difference for the side of Northwood. It looked risky, the investment of this ultimate as well, because they have absolutely nothing to work with throughout this street phase. I mean, sure, you have Doomfist, but the value of it, just maybe a little bit of space, if anything, trying to isolate that support in that backline.
Yeah, this is a pretty scary place to be. I mean, Doomfist, on one hand, though, especially in the hands of Dynasty, we've seen it do a lot of work, and should they be able to build up just a little bit, they can work with it. Bomb in, though. Counter charge to stop any bit of Doomfist shenanigans, and now they've got the space to work with. The bomb did pretty much everything that they could have asked for in the ultimate advantage when it comes to play here. SCAD have spent everything, though. SCAD have thrown their wallets on the table and laid down a challenge to Northwood. Northwood are going to be more than happy to take advantage of it.
And maybe the Blizzard, you could have played just for a little bit longer, right? They already lost so many members of the enemy team. You're going to have the advantage. Finally, the defense is able to control that space that they wanted for so long. That Blizzard saving it for the beginning of the next fight would have been a better opportunity. But now, I mean, what? You have an amplification to work with. Emitra can also do the same, and they just kind of cancel each other, as we see very often in a phase like this one.
I do like the positioning, though, here from SCAD. Take a look at how far back they are. This is going to give them the most value out of that one ultimate that they have. So the amplification makers can do even more, but it's not great at holding off the likes of Northwood. They just bowl through it. They don't care one bit. They could not care less, in fact, and the Shatters lay it out in the bar, and then the rest of the team cleaned up promptly afterwards.
And 1v1, I mean, they tried to get taken down. They tried to put up with the 5, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. Again, is an attacking side of Northwood that if they want to go in, I promise you they're going to go in. They have no fear. We see a little bit of trade as well that continues to take place, but might be even more as the end snappy with the last 2.
Yeah, it's worth knowing the spawns are better here for the attackers. So
and look at the ults. Look at the ults. Now they have so much to work with.
It's been flipped on its head, that's for sure.
That really made a difference for now this side of SCAD. They have so much more to work with. They have absolutely nothing, but a single messy fight was enough for them to be able to build with that Tamberi, to be able to build with that Shatter too.
I mean, our economy went from broke to just watching 6 trust fund kitties run around. Skiz, though, Shatter looks juicy, but nice block will put them in their place. Sound barrier to try and counter the rest of the ultimates coming in, but there are just too many. SCAD has a whole pocket full, and goodness knows they're throwing the kitchen sink at it.
Quite a lot of time remaining still, and no changes yet. So again, it's one of the conversations that we had at the beginning, right? Are these teams going to change that composition when things are not really working out in the street phase? And so far, right, you're playing kind of the best, the ideal composition, and for the defense as well, working out so perfectly. But all the ultimates they had before wasted, so perfect opportunity. Now, once again, to see Northwood playing aggressive like we see.
Yeah, I'd hardly call it wasted, but alas, I think what we're really starting to see here is running the Zarya. They weren't able to defense matrix, the amplification matrix. The grabs haven't really been able to connect through the likes of every sound barrier that's been cast. But you know what? Sometimes he was able to find the frags. A good engagement by Northwood gets them into the back line, and not a shadow from Skiz to answer.
There's going to be another pause as it seems like it's every time that Northwood is able to win those fights, right? We saw at the beginning, we get to see it again. They were finally winning the fight, moving that a little bit into that second point, but it gets slowed down, and now we got to see how long the pause is going to take. Hopefully, it's not going to restart the game again. Right?
It should be as easy as restarting the game.
Yeah.
Look, the SCAD, someone's got to unbind the Alt F4. I'm getting a weird suspicion here. Every time they lose a fight, the game happens to crash.
There's a... There's something there.
No,
There's something there to think about.
No, but Northwood have just done a fantastic job of cleaning that one up. They were at a slight ultimate disadvantage, but I want to go back to what I was talking about because I don't think we're hitting on this right enough. Cowman's fantastic at it, but there have been a lot of situations thus far. I mean, I've seen 2 Blizzards come out for absolutely free. I've seen Amplification Matrix walk through and them having to take a lot of damage on the receiving end because they can't defense Matrix. There's just so many tools that Zarya doesn't give you.
And that is why, right? This potential change that we might see, it's absolutely a possibility, but it doesn't seem like Cowman is willing to take that risk, right? If you have a little bit of confidence, if you were able to play this composition before and it was able to work out, you're going to try to run with it. But again, recently, it's just been all about the D.Va and that Reinhardt playing together. It's so weird to see just because it doesn't get as much value, it doesn't get as much space as you would want to support the rest of the team to push forward.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've just touched the tip of the compositional iceberg. So Harrisburg has a lot of things to offer themselves. We've seen the ball out of them. We haven't seen the double shield thus far, and so there's still plenty left on the table.
Is there going to be a double shield, though? That's kind of the one question that I have, because in a map like this one, I mean, sometimes you see it towards the end, but it's so rare, right? At that point, you have so many ultimates that you don't want to waste, and you might be seeing, if anything, a Wrecking Ball coming up just to delay a little bit more of that point.
Yeah, and it's usually in those sort of stagger situations, but very few teams have actually been bringing out in terms of composition.
Look, you've been talking so much about that double shield that I literally want to see it at this point. You made me
want
into
to see
this.
double shield.
You turned me into this. This is literally your fault.
Is there a doctor in the building? Can I get your head checked?
You mentioned it so much that I'm like, yeah, I want to upset Door. I want to bring that double shield.
It is pretty impressive when Northwood play it. It is a well-oiled machine, if nothing else. But it's one that nobody likes playing into, which is absolutely fair.
That's the point, right? That's the point. No one likes to play against it.
Yeah, but let's put a bit of a target on your back. We talked a little bit about Harrisburg and ISU, but I think while we've got some time, we've been enjoying some wonderful pauses. Let's go down their rosters and talk about how some of these games end up playing out, because the DPS lineups in this game thus far have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Both and Dynasty have been cleaning people up left, right, and center. Dynasty's Doomfist has been pretty impactful. We saw that bomb play with the coordination being really impressive. And honestly, I was really surprised. Alone seems to be having no problems alongside Lilith in matching that, in making sure that the Doomfist and the Cassidy aren't finding more value than they should, especially when you've got the likes of Seasons constantly up in your face. The flashbangs have been a pretty important tool.
One of the points that I like about those DPS as well, and on the side of SCAD, and I feel like that was also a factor that built into them getting to the stage as well, and being able to play and to put a match and to put a fight against teams like this one, is, you know, having Lilith playing that Mei and playing it to such a high level. It's supporting the team so much. It's able to not only open up spaces that they need, but also use the Blizzard like we saw in one of those fights. It was right at the end. It's cleaning up those fights. It's also cleaning up that communication that can get messy towards the end. And I feel like that's another point to talk about, right? It's that communication that towards the beginning on the side of Northwood, it looks really clean, right? When they're engaging into the enemy team, it's so clean. They're getting kills, they're getting the fight, but then they get slowed down more and more, and it seems like right into the mid-fight, that's when things get a little more risky for this team.
Yeah, and that's where we see the sports going down, but where we're not seeing sports going down is first. It's virtually almost always been the Reinhardts for these teams, and there's a saying that if the casters aren't talking about the supports are doing something right. And on both sides, I think that's exactly what we've seen. Snappy and Kabimas have been looking absolutely fantastic. I think one off sound barrier from Kabimas that looked a little bit weird, but on the other side...
It's been good. It's been good.
Exactly. Yamitra and Lep have been absolutely rock solid. Looking at some of the other teams they have to face up against, though, we talked about the DPS lineups. ISU's rocking with Vision and Echo, which... honestly, look, in an event full of teams with stacked DPS lineups, Vision and Echo might be up there at the top.
It's true. It's one of those players as well that we've heard for quite a long time, and it's something that we mentioned, right? That contender scene now, that collegiate scene that a lot of teams and players are deciding to go to, is something that is enabling them to play to a high level, to be supported by really good, maybe off things as well. When we get to see that D.Va being able to support that backline, making sure that they're staying alive, and like you said, they're not getting taken down first, so that means that they're doing what is necessary. Even with that Baptiste, the immortalities that we've seen wasted, they haven't been too many, right? And you have to be really careful about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching fights front to back, We're seeing very few mistakes. So then it really does come down to ultimate economy, right? Who has more tools going into the fight? Because everyone's using their tools correctly. It just matters who's got more. And at one point there, I mean, SCAD looked like I said, trust fund kids. They look like they just got Bruce Wayne's inheritance in their back pockets. But they threw it all out in one fight. They used 4 ultimates to win the next fight. And when you have that kind of advantage, when you know the other team isn't rocking with too much, you've got to be using them 1, 2 at a time. Like we were seeing Northwood do on the control points, right? It was just a sound barrier. It was just a Diva Bomb. It was a Shatter being comboed with a Deadeye, right? It wasn't too much. It was just enough being used.
And it's also because the composition that we see right now for both of the teams here in Kings Row are compositions that it's not going to be a single ultimate giving you the fight, but that means that you're going to at least have to layer them to be able to get the value that is going to be needed. And I think that's the risk here, even for both teams. I feel like we've seen 2, 3 ultimates being used at the same time, and that is when things get risky. That is also when SCAD was able to build into more and win another fight just by the ultimates that they were able to build into that one, into taking advantage of the positioning that the side of Northwood was taking.
Yeah, you almost wonder if it's too much respect being given by SCAD. SCAD have been playing far back. They've been playing relatively safe positions. They've been punishing over aggression from seasons pretty constantly above everything else. But in doing that, when they have the ultimates in their hands, when they're winning the ultimate economy, more often than not, I think we're seeing that respect given. They're throwing in 3, 4 ultimates because they think it's going to take 3 or 4 ultimates to take down Northwood. What I want to see from them is that proactivity of using those ultimates forward and also being confident that it's going to take them down. Maybe just lower that respect bar a little bit. It's good, because of course Northwood are a fantastic team. You've got to respect them, but there is an upper limit to that.
Yeah, there's a point to be made about that too. Like you said, the amount of ultimates that is going to be used and the respect as well that you have for the enemy team. We've seen situations where Northwood, even towards the beginning when we saw in Ilios, it was a single fight, that second fight that was won with no ultimates. Then we saw the self-destruct down, we saw that Shatter and everything else that followed behind that. And it was just knowing that your firepower alone, your main tank alone, being able to contest the enemy is going to be enough. And it's a respect as well that you have to give, but you also have to take.
Yeah, and you know what, speaking of respect, I think there's been a massive amount of respect gained by some of the teams that we're not seeing in the top 4 right now. ISU is here, but only by the grace of Boise State losing 1 fight. It was close. Boise State, coming in at 6th seed, gave them a severe run for their money earlier on in the play area. I was watching that one with bated breath. It was beyond close. Aiko, I think, bailed out ISU with a pretty big Doomfist punch, but outside of that, I mean, some of these other teams are really competing. Kennesaw, who qualified out of Orlando, looked absolutely phenomenal in Orlando. Not quite the same performance here, but we still see them taking down the likes of USF. That grudge match ended up going their way, and there's a lot of people that aren't on the main stage that have been really looking forward to playing, right? Boise got a great match against Akron in which those two scream each other all the time. I know they were looking forward to it in the first round. Boise State took that one pretty handily, to be fair, though. They looked really prepared. And then, like I mentioned otherwise, you know, up against USF, Kennesaw, I'm not going to call it revenge, but they kind of doubled down on it.
It's like an advantage, and it's been so fun to watch all these teams play throughout the day, right? Because we get to see that personality too. We get to see it live. We get to see it land, which is not something that we get to see very often when these teams are playing in online tournaments. And it brings a new possibility, and it brings also a new factor, right? How are teams going to perform in a stage like this one? Are they going to be delivering the results that we expect for them, or is there going to be a surprise? Like again, like we mentioned, it was Baseline, it was SCAD getting away with the victory. That's why they're here right now. That's why we get to cast them. But it's a factor that plays into account. It's a mental as well that you have to reset, and it's a mental that you have to deal with every single time.
Yeah, and I think that that's mentioned it, right? Collegiate is a space that can very much just ruin your pick'ems in the blink of an eye. And a lot of these teams have come right close to it. The only team that successfully upset the seeding yet, though, has been SCAD. They took down Bay State earlier on, but there have been so many close calls, right? Boise just, I mean, inches away from taking down ISU. If you look over at Valorant even, we watched Georgia Tech earlier, who, I mean, they played some fantastic 2 matches, but unfortunately had to go after that one. play up against the likes of SJSU, taking them 11-13, and in fact put them against the wall for a good amount of time. I can only imagine what's going on in Rocket League. We watched that insane final stock in Super Smash Bros. The games here have just been phenomenal.
They've been so good. They've been so good. They've been so hyped, but just because of that energy that the players bring, right? Everyone coming from different places in the U.S. ready to take down those fights and to see how far they're able to make it. Even teams that they know that are a little bit of an underdog, that they might not be performing the best against those teams that we see at the top that we get to see today. They're teams that are here to have fun, to give their best, and that is what is bringing so much energy, so much tension as well when you know that there are going to be so many eyes looking at you.
Yeah, and for a lot of these teams, it's their first time on land, right? It's their first time being in this sort of space, much less on the big old stage out there. These teams are under a lot of pressure, but some of them are able to uniquely channel it and really bring their team together. I think SCAD's a great example of that. You take a team that's got a lot of really good pop-off potential, you put them in a situation that's really intense, that's going to drive a lot of that adrenaline for them, and you're just going to see them shine more than anything else. And that's what I want to see out of these top 3 teams. They're used to being in these finals, but I want to see them get a little nervous. I want to see them raise their blood pressure a little bit.
You know what I'm thinking about when it's about getting nervous? I'm thinking about Redbirds. Because everyone is looking at this team. They know these players. And that pressure, I don't know how it's going to play, if it's going to be playing for them or against them when we actually get the chance to see them. Because we know we're going to see them after this match.
Yeah, ISU brings a lot to the table. And honestly, as far as teams to beat, it's hard, right? The Overwatch Collegiate Cup did just happen. And there was a lot of placings there. Northwood did particularly well. HU as well. SCAD, I think, placed a couple places back, I think somewhere around the 8th area. But it was a little, I think, marred by substitutions, right? Harrisburg was playing with a support player that wasn't quite part of their usual lineup. Elk was out. I believe it was Retina, who's a fantastic player by all rights, but not their usual lineup when they were playing in their Northwood as well. A couple of weird bits, but now everyone came to play. Everyone is laying it out, especially I talked to ISU after their game against Boise after things that may be a little bit too close for comfort with them. They said they're all business.
Yeah, now they're serious. Now it's going to be everything that they practice, everything that they had ready for a match like this one, for a day like this one, for a tournament like this one too, where you realize that making a little bit of mistake, getting a little too confident, it might be a big risk.
All right, we're going to be sending things to a quick little break, though. We're getting the computers all fixed up out there. Make sure the players have clean places, making sure the Alt F4 buttons have been removed. But until then, thank you guys. Stay around and enjoy the show.
Why do they always have to go bigger?
Come back.
I always come back.
Barbasol, limited edition collector's cans. In stores now. Capture them all before they're gone. See the movie. Rated PG-13.
Looking for a new job? Your local McDonald's restaurants are hiring now with career development opportunities, competitive wages, paid time off, flexible schedules, and perks such as employee meal program, tuition assistance, and a free college degree program. Start building your future today at careers.mcdonalds.com. That's careers.mcdonalds.com.
So you want to join the war against cancer? Well, good news, creators. Now you can fight back while you stream. Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the world's largest nonprofit in the war against blood cancer.
I always loved video games growing up. I knew that I had a talent. I worked tirelessly to game, to stream, so I'm talking about produce content, not only to keep the fans happy, but to set the standard. Why we call him one of the best players on the game right now. So that the next kid coming up will see the work and want to push harder, and maybe even further.
Worried about your friend but don't know how to reach out? could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You can ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR. It's so good. If you think you should check in, yeah, you should.
Whatever gets you talking. Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Whatever gets you talking. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
And welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience while our wonderful production crew solves issues that I have no idea how they even began to get there. My name is Dora. I'm still joined by the wonderful Dryad. This match continues as we watch the battle between Northwood and SCAD. The game will be resumed. No need for a reset. We just keep it going.
It is pretty good, right? But it feels like we didn't actually get in the zone, right? We didn't get to that second point properly for Kings Row. So now, hopefully, we're going to continue and see how far these teams can get. Northwood, we know have a little bit of momentum after that first map, but the second one can be a different story.
Yeah, we're just about to hop right into it. For those who didn't know, all players will be respawning here. We removed everybody, placed everybody right back in. That means ultimates are reset, which is a bit of an unfortunate situation for some of these teams. Easy settings fix here. I promise this pause won't be nearly as long, but nevertheless, with all this time, look, it's been a long time. I've grown the mildest amount of facial hair that I actually can. You shrunk a few inches, but I think we're still having fun.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No?
I don't know what's going on here.
We're just being transported. This is like an episode of the Twilight Zone, just the Overwatch version.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's not a fun one.
Right. It's a very confusing one maybe, but...
I'm a little lost, but the teams aren't. To refresh you guys what happened, we did get a first point cap from Northwood. They look fantastic doing it. I believe it was a Grav comboed with a Shatter, which is something that you didn't see but a couple of patches ago, but it does feel fantastic to see on the big stage. Now heading into the next one, the ultimates do reset, which should give a small bit of the game back to SCAD, but not enough to really give any big influence.
Right, it gets really interesting here because now we're looking at two teams that have pretty similar compositions. The one big difference here being the Cassie and the Doomfist, the way that they're playing together. So in paper, the defense should be able to touch, but the payload gets to move even more. And that means potentially even more ultimates faster for this team.
Already, Season's taking a good chunk of damage. You felt that one, I'll tell you that much. Immortality Field's been thrown out pretty early. Donnie, though, knocking a few players for, you know, creative with the Diva play. And in fact, applying a lot of pressure onto the back line. But that pressure just forced him into the welcoming arms of the rest of SCAD.
And look at the ultimates again. Ultimates that we didn't see from them before that we're about to be ready now for seasons that shatter. It seems like over and over again we have to talk about this player, the shatters. But even when they get denied, right, you know that this team and this player is usually using it to the best potential possible. But it does seem like we do have another pause.
Yeah, I mean, look, they come, they go. Sometimes you get a lot of them, sometimes you get a couple of them. But that's just the nature of the game. Look, it's an esport, it's online, everyone's been through these kind of things, but it's no problem for our wonderful production team to fix it right on up. We talked about a lot of what we really can about these two teams in particular, but again, let's talk about the prospective matches, because the winner of this one goes on to face the winner of Harrisburg versus ISU, which is probably the most storied match that we have available to us right now between these teams. That one's basically just two Titans duking it out.
Yeah, it's two really good teams, and the ones that we have today, right, the ones that we're going to be seeing on stream are teams that if you don't know about, then I don't know where you've been in the collegiate teams, right? You've been definitely missing a couple of things that have been so hype and that have made the teams what they are today. I love that we get to see this play. I want to keep seeing it. I want to keep seeing it.
I could watch that replay pretty much every day for the rest of the week. But
that's great.
You know who does get to watch that play one more time? Our wonderful analyst desk, who we're going to come ahead and toss it on over to take a look at the match.
Thanks so much, casters. Guys, these are the perils of esports. Technology is our god, and we must lay down and worship sometimes. Yeah. But this match so far, what are your thoughts? What are your impressions? Are you surprised by anything?
I'm not gonna lie to you. So me and Blue over here, we're having a little bit of a discussion.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
How's that discussion going?
So that discussion is more so the fact of, SCAD wasn't doing too well, wasn't doing too hot in the beginning, right? I mean, that's, that is the growing pains of esports. Sometimes you gotta get settled into things a little bit.
Yeah.
And as you saw, perfectly fine.
Oh, okay.
In the second part of that match, they did pretty well. They did end up losing the first game, but I do think that that is once again something it is that I've personally seen them do, is that they are really a team that sort of relies on like a scaling bonus, right? I guess if you want to call it that for those of my mobile people out there. Then they have late game. Early game is rough, mid-late game go pretty well. So that's typically what it is that I've been seeing. I've actually been enjoying a lot of the picks they've had as well. The Baptiste on either side, once again, part of the reason as to why he's such a strong character as well as the Lucio. You sort of can go tick for tack there, right? Like, I mean, it's not having a Baptiste is like a big deal. We saw that Immortality field come out so many times. Right there, they use it to sort of secure the ultimate from Cassidy, which makes it that much more prevalent, right? It makes it that much more dangerous. And that's something that you sort of see the more you see those characters come out. Baptiste is such a strong pick, and I love watching him be played too. He brings so much utility to the team.
Yeah, I love the Bap too, but when you have a Bap and a Lucio like they did, on that first map, and then you pair with an Echo, I was saying during the game, I don't like this. Right. I mean, there's no one to protect Echo. They're playing out there. They got the little point on the building. Everyone's fighting in there. You got two Ryans going at it, and you got your other tanks walking in there. I mean, credit also to SCAD. Lilith on the Mei. I mean, Mei is Bae, one of my favorite characters in the game, and she brought it out, and she's doing a fantastic job with it. She was just who she's freezing at the exact moment is who needs to be frozen. She was even getting people out of the possible ults that could have came out at that time. So she was doing a great job, hitting some nice shots too, to charge that Blizzard as fast as possible. So I give them credit. SCAD's staying in this. And then, of course, on the other side, you have Northwood. They won the first map. The game two, I don't know exactly what's happening. A little game two pause happening here and there. But at the start of that game, they did something a little tricky, trolly, I guess. You know, they go with the Bastion and the Rhine and the Symmetra on defense. You usually, on Kings Row, you see that on offense where teams try to get past that choke point right away, because everyone's going to hold the fortress at that door. It's a little gate. You either got to go through hotel, which means you got to like kind of jump into that alley and get cornered if you don't really like disperse very quickly. So if you don't go through that gate, that's your only other option. So teams started doing this where they would come out with Symmetra and TP a Bastion and a Reinhardt right to the top of the statue, and you got a little turret up there with a shield and some protection, and that allows that gate to kind of open up, because if the Rhine doesn't shield that damage coming from up top, then you're gonna, okay, I'm holding the line, I'm holding this gate here, but they're gonna shoot you in the back for free. And then we saw the defense do that where they just said, hey, walk into the gate, we dare you. It didn't go so well at the beginning. They quickly swapped to Cassidy instead of the Bastion, but they were still able to win the team fight and sustain themselves long enough for their DPS to get back and win that next team fight. So that was good from Northwood. But SCAD, I think, like you said, scaling, they could take this game.
We were talking a bit about Lilith. I think Lilith is emerging as a favorite player here. Can you guys tell me a little bit about Lilith?
Typically, from the last time it is that like we ended up talking, like she was really like a very prominent DPS player, right? She had swapped a lot of roles and really was that flex pick that I saw her be a lot of the time when I was at SCAD. Previously top 500 as well. Definitely something that I've been super interested in seeing her, and love seeing her here and obviously sort of show up, right? And on a bunch of different picks as well. You mentioned the pick on Mei, and there is utility in that. You don't see it happen as often, but there is plenty of utility in that character. I mean, we saw it when they were actually trying to contest on the opposite side. She puts up the Mei wall, it blocks the shatter. They do lose the fight, but they don't have a shatter coming into the next fight, right? Which allows SCAD to even it up 1-1. So I've actually really been enjoying just the play from her, the play from everybody actually. Go Bees. There we go.
Are there any other favorite players you guys have identified besides Lilith?
I mean, for Northwood, the whole team is kind of awesome to watch, but mine would probably have to be Cowman 711 for the name, for one. You know? But for the second reason is because I play tanks in most of the games. I mean, I've played Overwatch, I've played other hero shooters where there's tanks, DPS, and supports. I do play Mei. That's why I love Mei. I love Mei because it's kind of like I'm just going to freeze people. My duo, shout out to my duo out there, Sin-Cara. He's the one who's going to kill everyone once I freeze him. And then once they start worrying about him, then that's where I can shine and hit some headshots with the icicles.
The best part about seeing Mei freeze people is this guy yelling, "Where's my super suit?" I'm trying to because Overwatch is very convoluted at times. Like there's a lot going on, so it's like I am not listening to obviously the guys down there. I've got front row access to this, and he's like sitting there and You have corps that are so off the cuff that have nothing to do. Like, it's just references to like something like you see the hamster ball like go through or whatever. And I forget what you said, but I was dying. But and the like the Incredibles reference and everything else. That's the content that I'm getting over here, and it's stuff I wish we had a behind-the-scenes camera for because it's been absolutely hilarious.
At the same time, we're breaking the game down perfectly while you're watching too. We're like, oh, that's massive! Look at Frozone go! There's actually a really nice play that happened on the first round of that first map with the Cassidy, where that's just what Northwood does so successfully is they find angles and they get the most out of the littlest things in the game. Like that flashbang from Cassidy to set up the triple Diva bomb, that's something you don't expect because you have to anticipate that Reinhardt has a shatter. So you're holding that shield up, you're trying not to let him get the shatter because if that shatter comes through, your whole team could get hit by a Diva bomb. But instead, Cassidy takes the high ground. You don't expect the Cassidy to be up there. You know, it's a cowboy, no movement abilities except for like a dodge roll. Gets up there, throws a flashbang behind that shield, stuns like 4 of them, 3 of them die to a Diva bomb. That's the kind of teamwork and the kind of playmaking that Northwood brings to the table. The most out of the smallest utility.
Thinking about that utility, about those choices as we're going into this game too, as we're sitting on a pause, what do you guys predict for the rest of this game? What do you think that either team needs to do or keep doing in order to come out on top?
So there's actually something that was super interesting that Blue had asked me about Smash that I think applies more here than it does in Smash because of typically how the competitive staging and ruling goes. But when it comes to this, maps, Blue had asked how impactful were they on Smash. In this, it's totally different. It dictates character picks, it dictates strategy, it dictates a lot of things, right? And so here, I think I genuinely am loving the lineup from both teams right now. I think the Doomfist is being a little bit more impactful because of that dive potential. I mean, we saw Lilith bring out the Mei, as you see from right here, a little bit earlier, just to try and force that from. Just try to force a character change, see if they can stop them within the choke point as well. Overall, providing a really, really rough time. Mei, like I said, is a very good situational pick in areas like this because you see there's like plenty of chokes. You can put up her wall. That area on King's Row, especially when you're first pushing out from the cart, is so choke point heavy to where if they can get it past like I believe the first checkpoint, then the map sort of opens up and you have a different sort of slew of opportunities that you can sort of attack from. But from right here, you see that time and time again on Busan, it becomes a little bit more of a difficult fight. It becomes a little bit more of an uphill battle because of how strongly you need to hold those positions. It's very easy to get spawn trapped, and that's something it is that we saw SCAD on the receiving end of beforehand on Busan, was the fact of them being forced back, them being forced away, them sort of stuck in like a really, really rough spot and losing the fight towards mid. That sort of shifts everything towards the perspective of their opponents and makes it so that it's way easier for them to try and keep a hold on them. But I definitely think that the picks here, I don't think we'll see much of a shift. I think the characters that are doing good do the things that they do best, which is healing, keeping everybody alive, sustainability, and keeping people aggressive.
Yeah, I think if SCAD just plays well a little bit better on Ilios, they could have won that map, to be completely honest. They played very well the second round too. Like the Mei was massive because of the walls and the freezing. I mean, the wall play inside of there as well was just beautiful. Also that hook from Roadhog on Well, great play with the Tracer and the Roadhog. That's one thing that when you go into like a ranked game or you watch some collegiate level Overwatch.
How dare you?
How dare you? I'm amped up. I'm ready to go for Rocket League.
He's just trying to throw some shots while he can. Come on.
So some of the play that you don't really see, you do see it in the pro level, is kind of that off tank and DPS working together in the off lane. It's not something you see as much in Overwatch or talk about as much because it's not as prevalent. You usually see those 6v6 battles, everyone's going straight on at each other. But when you have a Roadhog and a Tracer kind of working as a duo together, that Roadhog, he can sustain his own life. He's got the heal ability. He's got a good hook mechanic, and also he can do a lot of damage. He's more of a damage tank, can't shield anyone, right? So you pair that with a tracer, and then they go off in that off lane and they're working together. All they're doing is making space. And when they can make that space and get rid of that Reaper, who's the tank buster for the other team, Roadhog can stay alive and cause even more havoc with Tracer, because Tracer's just bouncing all around. And then they have the Echo in the sky. So Cassie's kind of got a job where they got to flash or stun that Tracer and also take care of the person in the sky because they're the only hit scan. The Doomfist was doing a lot of good work, but still, you can't leave it all up to Cassidy. So if SCAD can find ways to deal with that off lane or to, I mean, we're on King's Row, which is a very short push. So if they can get the snowball effect going while they're on attack and get that payload to that checkpoint very quickly, it gets very hard for the defense. Even though they have spawn advantage on that side, it gets very hard for them to hold that, especially if high ground gets taken away from them.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about this game, but since we have some time to chat, let's thank our excellent sponsors who have made this event possible. First, download the app for exclusive deals and easy ordering. With the McDonald's app, you'll get access to exclusive deals.
Fire.
Also, Futures First Gaming exists at the crossroads of esports and education, where they work round the clock to bring STEAM opportunities to Black and brown youth. With programs recently featured in the Washington Post and USA Today, FFG has set their sights on turning Delaware into a mecca for esports. Check out their upcoming Girls Who Game event by scanning the QR code. Now, we've been talking a lot about the game itself, the strategy, what's happening in the games right now.
We've been talking about the game a lot.
I'm including you.
I know where my role is in this.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to zoom out a little bit because, Lawler, you have tons of experience in esports. You've seen lots of players. You've played lots of games. We also have Fawn, who is recently coming out of the collegiate esports world, right? And all of us together have this kind of history in esports. So I want to talk a little bit about what it's like as a player to be down on the stage mentally, because I think a lot of people don't realize the mental toll this takes, and how difficult it is physically and mentally to stay in the game. A lot of esports pros, you'll see them like adjusting keyboards to a certain angle. Like, I think Justin Wong is one that plays with a banana right in front of him. I'm not sure.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, I know. You have your things that you need to do, because every single tiny brain cell really, really matters in situations like this. So let's talk about the players, what they're probably thinking, feeling, and what they need to do in order to stay in the mental place that can win them this game.
Yeah, I think primarily it starts with trying to get into a groove. The difficulty is when you are in an environment that is not home. You are not in your comfy, cozy apartment, bedroom, whatever your lifestyle is. No judgment, you do you. But the ability to get into a norm, a routine, something that you are comfortable with, and being removed from that element with a setup that is not familiar to you. You are now, I mean, getting some advantages because you do have your teammates and stuff next to you, but primarily you are getting used to a different setup in a different environment with a lot more pressure, a lot more things on the line. And now that's being superseded by the fact that there is technical delays.
Right.
So it's like you're trying to get into this groove, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we got to take a step back. Sometimes that's actually good, though. All the nerves they had, got to be gone.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah,
you don't think more?
No, at this point, I think you've gotten to have to like hold off so long that now you're just like, okay, we're just waiting for our moment. I think the nervous side of things is.
Do you guys agree? Because I don't know.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, well, you can go ahead and go first.
I was going to say, I watch a lot of baseball, and I think DPS players, especially in a game like Overwatch, are the ones that take the biggest hit during these big delays, is because they're like a pitcher, right? If there's a rain delay,
mechanics aren't as warm.
Yeah, like your aim's not as warm, just like a pitcher's arm kind of gets cold. The longer a rain delay goes, the longer the opportunity for that pitcher to keep pitching is not going to happen. But there's no one subbing in for the DPS players down there, so they got to stay warm. I also was never a player at LAN, but I was a coach. I'm undefeated, by the way.
Oh my goodness!
No, not just that one.
Okay, I was about to say. Don't listen to him about this.
Yeah. Coach.
Yeah, I was a coach and undefeated. I do have a banana, a little snack. Yeah.
Oh boy.
You know Jay Wong, though. Just saying.
Fawn, did you have something to add?
I definitely would say that a lot of the biggest thing it is that gets killed that is sort of hard to take back as momentum when it comes to technical difficulties, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that players have to look out for, because trying to regain the momentum you had, especially if unforeseen circumstances, whatever it is that may end up happening, it becomes such a detriment to the mental sometimes, I feel like, because you're trying to reclaim what it was that you possibly worked so hard to get, especially if it's coming down to the wire, right? I definitely think that's something it is that the players have to sort of like learn to regain. Like, but once again, I do agree with Lawler to an extent about the mental stack. You feel a little bit easier. I don't necessarily think that you feel like the best, but I definitely do think that you like. There's some level of like jitters that goes down, right?
Yeah.
Your anxiety isn't necessarily there or as prevalent because you've already been in the mix of things, right? So you at least have like a gauge for like how well it is that you're doing, how well you're performing, and it sort of gives you a time to reflect on that as well, right? It's understand what mistakes and things it is that you could deal with once you're back into the game, once you're back into the saddle. I think that's something that's really, really important. Momentum and definitely mental stack for sure.
Well, hopefully we'll hear from one of these players in an interview soon enough. Before then, just want to say thank you to our sponsors. As you can see, Control, Barbasol, and can you hand me those? Hand me those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to do the thing?
Oh, a little flash. Okay.
Yeah. All of our sponsors making it possible for us to be here with you today and look really, really fly. So don't go anywhere. You are also looking fly, and we need to see your faces through the interwebs. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more from CECC. Collegiate Esports Commissioner's Cup is presented by Microsoft CW. Barbasol. Go to barbasol.com/Dominion to see all the limited edition Jurassic cans. New Street. New Street helps you navigate the collectibles markets with confidence. Visit newstreet.com to find out more. McDonald's. Download the McDonald's app for exclusive deals and easy ordering. McDonald's, I'm loving it. And by the U.S. Air Force. See if you can command the stack in the U.S. Air Force's award-winning augmented reality flight experience mobile game available in the App Store. In partnership with CSMG, transforming traditional sports and esports. EsportsU, the flagship of collegiate esports. Skillshot Media, the official broadcasting partner of the CECC. Atlanta Esports Alliance, location host of the CECC 2022 in Atlanta, Georgia. Esports Foundry, official tournament operator for the CECC.
him back in the door. Am I getting shorter or are you getting taller?
I'm not sure, man. All the wackiness had to go somewhere, and I guess it just continues on camera. Look, we got two amazing teams. They're still up and at it. I think I saw Lep taking a nap on the stage there for a little bit. So clearly, making them. Yeah, I don't think of it as a pause. I think of it as a vacation.
Yeah.
Dryad. This is honestly a favor we're doing for the players.
Sometimes you gotta get in that mental state, and taking a little rest, taking a little break is gonna do it. So whatever works, right?
Absolutely. We're finally back in things. I think we've got ult charge on the board for a couple of these players. I see a Northwood fight win on deck as we approach point C.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more here that they were able to make it, but they're so close to that point C, and it seems like no one else is able to get close. Those timings as well, missing a little bit with that defense. You have to adapt, you have to play back, and just building those ultimates again is going to be the win condition, but Season, it's so close to getting that shatter. There it is.
And that can end a fight in its own right. Seasons is a very, very scary man when you put a shatter in his hand. It's just a matter of when you lay it down. So tempting. Skiz knows. Skiz doesn't want to be on the receiving end, but his backline will be! Down goes 2 players, and that's just the opening they need, forcing out the Immortality field, but Dynasty's caught out. Seasons overextends. It's not enough to win the fight despite their best efforts.
And it's going to be a defensive setup there that had to work from beginning to end. It got a little messy towards the beginning, but the cleanup just happened to be so much better now. A better opportunity as well for the defense to work with. They have the Blizzard. We saw the analysts that they were talking about Lilith, about what she's able to do with this Blizzard. A little bit more space. That is exactly what the defense is looking for, especially because it's only 1 minute and a shatter already on the way.
Oh, you remember how I was talking about not giving Northwood too much respect? That's exactly what I mean. A flank shatter from a Skiz just gives Yamitra the beans.
And that was that Blizzard use, that ultimate use, but now you still have Jackins, you still have amplification, then those 2 ultimates are amazing at creating that space that was going to be necessary, potentially with that last fight territory. This less than 40 seconds remaining, and a Blizzard and a counter boat is the best hope that this side of Northwood has.
Yeah, I don't see too many counters to it, to be fair. There's no sound barrier, there's nothing to get it through. They'll try a zoning dragon, but that's not going to work. It does force out an Immortality field at least, but back into the welcoming arms of Blizzard they go, and nice little seismic slam to make sure that they get in on that one. Dynasty easily connects that punch as well. Just the Diva remains now as the card progresses towards victory.
And it's going to be more and more kills that Dynasty is able to get, going right to the spawn because they know the time is running out, less than 10 seconds. This is going to the overtime, and it wouldn't be a King's Row without this overtime coming up.
Oh my god, wait, Boat's got a Bastion swap. Boat's got a Bastion swap. This is scary, but so is this Implication Matrix. When you have to sit on cart, you have to tank this. This is not what you want to be playing into. Alone's brought out a Bastion as well. It's robotic warfare, and both teams give it to each other. It's Boat, however, who ends up as a bucket of bolts on the ground, and Alone remains victorious at the top of the mountain.
And I can't believe they made it work out at the end. Self-destruct, putting that Bastion into such an uncomfortable position. We saw him trying to run away, not really working out. And with that, a defense that made it pretty good towards the end. 2 points that we saw, pretty much 3, but that overtime, that running out of time as well, didn't really play in the hands of Northwood. They still can make it. But we got to see how the momentum is feeling, right? We talk about the break, we talk about how much it can benefit players, but it can also play against them.
I think you're feeling pretty good. You swap sides here. This is, I mean, look, we played a lot of maps. None of them have necessarily been particularly great double shield maps as far as we're concerned. King's defense, I think, is kind of one of the first opportunities where we get to see double shield be a real option for Northwood. Whether or not they bring it out is still, of course, in question. But we're starting to see SCAD break out some really impressive team play. I got to give my hat off to Cognos. He brought up the bomb that ended up taking down Boat's very fearsome Bastion in that small room, but it was all because Cognos was able to boot up into it and really make that team play happen. Right. Understanding what it takes in order to win these kinds of fights. Albeit, I do think there was a small misplay from Northwood and how they tried to approach that fight. They tried to play aggressive with Seasons, the Dynasty pushing in towards the spawn, not really preparing for the bomb, right? Because you need your runner with the team to protect the rest of them from that. And now as we swap over sides, we're starting to get it. It's not double shield, but Cowman's Diva paired with an Orisa is still just as scary.
It's pretty good, and it's going to work out in a way that is one of my favorite compositions to watch as well, because we don't get to see it very often, that Orisa and the Diva playing together, but it can be so nice the way that they can play together. That Diva is going to have a very difficult job, but if there's an option that can do the job, it's going to be Cowman, as the doors are going to open, and it's going to be another opportunity now here for SCAD. Let's see how far they can make it.
They're going to show us a little bit of swap. Yeah,
they're changing.
I think it's to try and either match or bring up a different composition. Orisa Diva is something that was super popular in Chinese and Korean contenders for a good amount of time. North American and EU teams haven't played it as prominently, but it has been popped around here and there. And like you said, with Cowman on Stevie, you really can't go wrong. They're going to swap over to a 6-man to counter, though. Try and run in with that Sombra and the Tracer and find a correct dive target. Hanzo already taking a good bit of damage, but will be kept alive for just a moment. That is long enough to take down Lilith. It's 2 trade out for 1, but Yamicha's got a fantastic position here up on the high ground and takes down Skids. That's a dirty, nasty fight that no one's really clearly winning, but one team does, of course, have spot advantage.
And that is going to be a little bit more of this attacking side, ready to take the fight one by one, taking down the targets and making that space possible for even more time, right? This is something that was playing against Northwood from the beginning, but now on the side of SCAD on the attacking side, they have a better chance. They're going to have a really good control of Street to raise. They're going to be holding back just for a little bit, but this Winston and the control in the corner and Street phase might be where the difficulty comes in. Yeah, they're going to be changing it. I do like this. Again, that corner, it has to be controlled by Reinhardt. I can't see anyone else doing it.
All kinds of here for it. The 6-man swap was obviously a really fantastic counter to the Orisa Diva, but now it's all about Reinhardt who can make this a little bit easier. I am looking at a couple of big ultimates to do that. The Coalescence, of course, will be the first one up on the board. That allows them to close that gap in. And of course, Dynasty duplicating. There's 3 Reinhardts on the field, which means a whole lot of shattering to be done. Dynasty finally gets it up and lays down the law, but a beautiful block is going to keep Skiz in the fight. And of course, with them, the rest of SCAD.
And it's a good duplicate, right? But the timing there a little bit messy to make anything else work out. And it's just, you can see the side of SCAD, they're locked in, they're ready for this fight. They're taking more space, they're taking more control as much as they can, if anything. And having a Moira as well, being able to build that coalescence over and over again, is just building and setting up this team for success.
Yeah, we're seeing SCAD use those ultimates as well more effectively this time, though, coming out of the gates. It's going to be Northwood trying to open things up. The bomb to counter and Immortality Field, stop that. It's almost booped away from, but a flank that could be dangerous, and of course, Alone makes it so. Down goes Dynasty.
One of my favorite things about this composition too, right, that you can bait that Immortality to be used in so many ways, right? We see that self-destruct that forces it, and on the other side, who's flanking, you know what, is going to be that Cassidy being able to get that kill, that Shatter as well is going to help, and with that, is going to be even more time this SCAD has, more space as well that they're able to take, and more ultimate percentage for the next fight. They have everything in their hands, and the map belongs to them.
Dude, let's be real, SCAD are cooking with gas. This time bank is scary. It is large, and if they can't stop them at this point, Northwood are in a bit of a pickle. Playing on the backside of the choke, though, using Deadeye to zone. It kind of counters the Blizzard, but a great defense matrix actually keeps Lilith in the fight. Shoutouts Donnie for winning this one practically hands down on their own.
And it's a coalescence as well that we see a little bit towards the end. It should be fine. Again, that point is going to belong for the side of SCAD. They're going to continue being in the hands and being a little bit behind this Reinhardt that is helping them out so much. But it's a composition that is fast and is working way better than what Mitra is doing. It's got to be Immortality. It's going to be amplification to try to change the pace into this one.
Dude, it's got to be perfect. You got 4 minutes and 30 seconds on this.
So much.
You are staring down the barrel of the beast right about now. You can't really take much more than that. And oh no, gets a little bit risky. An attempt to dive in the back line. Uh-oh, this bomb's fallen. Do they block it? Absolutely. Clean play from Northwood to keep the remainder of their team players alive. Dynasty dive in the back line. Will catch Kabi, Moss, and Alone. This Doomfist came to play.
And they make it happen, right? But
wow, I say that, and then they put that. They spec it for that. That's unfortunate.
Just make it for a little bit longer, but at the same time, right, you can't lose a single fight here. It's just a massive risk to take. So it's got to be, like you said, playing perfectly, and that means taking trying to take as much space as you can. The problem is the protection on this map itself in this part, it isn't much. You're just relying on that Reinhardt, and if that Reinhardt shield goes down, everyone has to play back.
Well, you got to play back for now as well. Deadeye is obviously respected by either team here. No one's going to take it on a mech. It's just a little bit of time off the clock. Seasons with the Shatter, and now Alone with the Deadeye being the big tools. The Shatter connects. The Reinhardt's down. Seasons gets frozen, though. So this is a bit of an awkward situation. Now the wall is going to put him in a corner between a rock and a very, very painful coalescence play. Skiz punishes on top of that, and now it's looking like the map is good and done for unless Cowman can make a miracle happen.
And that is when you take opportunities like this one in the hands of SCAD to take away that map. But we know the staggers are coming one by one. No wrecking ball. It's still that Reinhardt. So the time to get there's a little bit harder, but Samir should be making it easier. I
mean, the Samir is a good engage tool. The Immortality Field has to be perfect, and it kind of is. It doesn't keep Seasons up, though. Donnie's bomb in the backline as well. Take down left. The sustain now is all up to Yamitra if they want to save this. As support has got to clutch up. Seasons swapping over the ball. We start to see the stagger picks come in, and Boat's got the big bad. A Deadeye to put through the shield of Skiz, and down goes the main tank, Northwood, now so much more likely to hold on.
She is so low, getting taken down at the end, turning around for a single second, but that was enough to get away with his life. Now, last opportunities here, but still a lot of time remaining, and this is when the Coalescence steps in. The Coalescence to initiate the fight, giving a little bit more momentum for this team, and then relying on just to be able to land that shatter properly.
I mean, that Coalescence is going to enable them to get so many more ultimates off the back, but this is dangerous for Northwood. They've got to find a big pick. Dynasty swapped over to Bastion. They're trying every trick in the book right now, but the book has been read 1,000 times by SCAD, and they know every word. Yamitra up on the high ground can try and frag as they may, but this point was destined to be for SCAD.
And that shatter as well to close it out is going to be the map going in the hands of SCAD. And there were so many things going in the way after a long pause, but they're able to come back. They're able to step exactly how they wanted to, and they're able to get with this King's Row. So I love to see it, right? I love to see the momentum that they have going on. But now is going to be the map chosen by this side of Northwood. And now it seems like it's going to be one of those maps that is not going to enable you to play that Mei, to play a little bit of that Reinhardt, to play those compositions that we've seen that SCAD is so good at.
Dude, I don't think Northwood was ready to pick maps. I'm not sure they've even thought about which one they thought they were just going to 2-0. They thought they were just going to come here and clean up. They thought they were going to be playing against Bay State, but SCAD has surprised us, and especially Northwood, time and time and time again.
And they are trying to continue to do it, right? It wouldn't be, wouldn't it be better to see a closed map, she close it out, closed map as well? That is the possibility that the teams are bringing to the table. And again, just knowing that SCAD has the momentum going, has the opportunity, and got the pause in a way that was, at the end of the day, benefiting them the most.
Yeah, I mean, look, benefit them the most is one way to put it. I like to think that they just smoked them on the attack. Plain and simple, that was a speed run of King's Row in virtually every sense of the word. They made very quick work of Northwood. I think Northwood have got to be smart about what map they take this to. I'm looking at the options. We're at a hybrid. I believe we're moving on over to Escort or 2CP, either of which do have pretty viable double shield options. If you're playing Escort, the likes of Route 66 come to mind. If you're playing Assault, literally anything comes to mind for playing double shield. There's a lot of opportunity here in the map picks to make it very, very uncomfortable.
And this is really a concern that I have for SCAD, right? Because pretty much everything that we've seen from them has been this composition, the one that's giving them success so far, right? So now, once Lilith is forced out of this Mei, once they're forced out of this main tank as well, out of this Reinhardt, then what else can they bring to the table? We saw Winston for a little bit at the beginning, but it was a strategy as well that was playing just for that fight to then swap and to bring something new after. So I want to see what they have prepared. I want to see what map as well we're going into. I feel like there's so many possibilities, but as long as you're able to make SCAD a little bit uncomfortable, it's a perfect opportunity for Northwood to just get everything back and just get that energy that they really need right now.
Yeah, there's really two sides to the SCAD coin, right? The Winston composition that you brought up earlier really did just kind of feel like a counter composition, though it was well played to their credit and a great job of swapping off of it. That was something we criticized from SCAD earlier on, was when they were swapping their compositions, understanding when it was kind of okay to do that, when you're throwing away the ultimate economy, and when you can kind of get away with it a little bit more. There, they understood their position, they understood they won the last fight cleanly, so the opposing side's not going to have that much in the way of ultimate charge to really bully you with after that. Go back, make the swaps, and then just steamroll with the Reinhardt, to be completely honest.
And I do like this map is going to be a Route 66 next.
That's great. Who predicted that? Who could have called that? Man, they should cast or something. But
maybe
one day. But like I said, there's a pretty clear reason why they're picking this map. Double shield on defense and attack can be played. I do think it leaves the door open here. SCAD showed us that Winston composition earlier. When you go here, 6-man works perfectly fine. As well, if you have it in your back pocket, not too often played by North American teams, but double bubble is a fantastic composition on this map should you want to break, especially double shield.
I do really love the double bubble, but I don't know if we're going to be seeing it, right? I feel like the possibilities are not many, and this is a team for this out of SCAD that has been preparing different compositions for every single team. This is something that we talked about earlier, but again, it's just worth mentioning because you have to prepare for anything. That also means that you know exactly what composition you're going to be playing best and when is going to be the time to change. So that is a possibility that we see from them, and I like this Widow. Has a potential to get the picks, but if not, it's gonna be a swap.
Yeah, Alone takes pot shot, and I mean, maybe stays. It's a suspiciously long amount of time this Widow has been hovering. But there we go. Yeah, Tracer swap, no question. And you know, we are going to see kind of remnants of Double Bubble. And a concept that kind of originated with it, but is still being played with virtually every dive composition now, is building that nano boost. Skid's job is to take a bunch of damage, allow Snappy to build up nano boost, and then that's what they're going to use to take the real fight, to engage on that double shield. So it will be a little bit before we see a proper engagement out of SCAD, but they will be taking some poke damage.
And Alone, once again, switching from a Tracer now to the Echo, which seems like he's going to try to stay, but could be working a little bit better. And it is first pick already going his way. Definitely made the right choice at the end of the day, and that is all that matters. Gives him a little bit more control to work with and forces the defense even back.
I mean, that's just a gift, if nothing else. Dynasty will trade it back, which you're really happy about, because they were really wanting to save for that nano, and finding that pick early made it even easier to do so. Now, though, making it a little bit more difficult. Northwood have come in, and they've got all the space in the world. Kagmas gets a res onto Lilith, but that only evens the numbers for a little bit of time. Yamitra and Bodu showing up to clean the rest of this fight up and send them right back to spawn.
And they make it happen fast here. Finally, the payload moving back a little bit. And I want to take a look at Lilith here, 50% to get that EMP. Once that EMP is available, we know that's going to be the win condition for this team. The question is, how long is it going to take, and how much can you enable this Winston with the nano that's about to be ready in the meantime?
I mean, you can get some work done. It's caught on Skiz, but Skiz is quite the prolific Winston. Is known for getting a lot done in these circumstances when it matters most. There's just not much follow-up, unfortunately. So what they're trying to do is pull some cooldowns initially, but not even the initial dive is particularly successful. Skiz gets on, but it's only the tanks. He's got to use his primal rage. This doesn't feel particularly great. Even the Ashe is able to be rezzed up. You didn't knock them off the high ground. Not much was done, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. The Skiz just kind of flails around wildly and Lep cleans up alone.
It's also such an open area to work with, that being able to do that work properly, using that ult, using as well that primal rage is not going to be as effective. So now an ultimate, unfortunately, doesn't get as much value for Northwood, or well for the side of SCAD, but still has the potential to do more. Again, EMP about to be ready, but in the meantime, this is something that the diva for Kalman has to be predicting and is going to be looking for.
Oh yeah, I mean, with 5 ultimates up.
Yeah, look at him.
This is
look
scary.
at him.
One of the big ones I do want to draw attention to that we haven't seen yet, Boat's Bob. I was VOD viewing this team about, a few days ago, and watching their play. Both Bobs are really creative. He loves to use them to peel for the team, to combo with the Orisa halts, and use them in all sorts of really aggressive and proactive ways that other teams aren't really expecting. You saw there, he used it to peel the Winston off of him, which results in the Winston not getting the kill, being forced back, and now Northwood winning a fight.
It's just putting over and over again this team in such an uncomfortable position to work with, that there's no space, no control that they've been able to get from the ultimate that they've gotten so far. But now hoping to change things around. Like I said, EMP finally ready, waiting for them. It's going to be a full reset if they want to make this one work out.
Hey, I'm not seeing anything to counter it either, right? There's no amount of sound barrier.
It's just a deal looking for it, but I mean...
Yamitra's got to hide and pray is pretty much the name of the game here. Pray that you don't get hit by this EMP and pop an immortality field from downtown to save the rest of your team.
And that is why we see everyone kind of playing a little bit far back, a little bit in different positions as well, to make sure that the EMP is not going to hit everyone. But they got the tanks, you pretty much get that win condition, but it's got to be now, right? Only 20 seconds remaining here.
Oh yeah, you see how far away the Baptiste is from the rest of the team. Oh, but the Winston point, oh, it got canceled! Oh my lord, Lep with reaction time out the wazoo! Shuts down the play from Lilith, and now it's Northwood's fight to lose. They still have the high ground, they've got everything they want. Season's fighting down the side lane, all spurred on by a tiny Swedish Brigitte, and my god, is she fierce.
That is such a tragedy to happen right at the end. The one potential here, still trying to put up a fight on this side of SCAD, but it seems like it's been done. It's over. Kalman still having that self-destruct to use at the end. We'll be putting it on top of the payload. We'll make sure that everything slows down at the end, and not even 1 point is SCAD going to be able to get here.
Nah. That's just that. Two
really.
words. Support gap. That's it. The only yeah, I know there were like 3 more minutes of play in that, but oh my god, Lep was just ready for it.
We mentioned, right, there's no proper counter here to work with, but I mean, taking into account that Lep is in the game, there's always going to be that possibility. They shot down an EMP that already took so long to build, right? It was pretty much 3 minutes waiting for this EMP to take place. Finally ready, immediately stun, cancel, and the Sombra down. Just puts this team, this attacking team, in such an uncomfortable position. They can't recover. They don't have enough time. They can't make another fight happen. And it just even more, this is exactly what Northwood was waiting for. It's so good.
That was just gross.
It's so good.
Mean. Can I know we're on a land, but it's still collegiate. Can I report for cyberbullying? Because I think I may have found an instance.
It just, no, that's brutal. And that also has to shut down the mental of players too, right? When you've been waiting for so long, it's the last opportunity, and then it just fades away right in front of your eyes. Such an unfortunate situation, but now, I mean, it's gotta be SCAD trying to find another answer here, and it's gotta be playing really close, which is something that they're trying to do.
I mean, they're gonna attempt the close hold here. I thought they were gonna bring the hog out, but you'll see both immediately gonna Sonic this. They've seen this play before. They've been in this position before. Yeah, there it is. Everyone's spotted. Halt's out, and the jig is up. Now it's up to Northwood to break it. Dynasty immediately swaps to Afara. Oh man, they've been red like a hook. There's no counter to this. Alone doesn't have good enough sight lines over this train. They're gonna be pushed back, and look at them scramble, running around like chickens with their heads cut off. There's just not much to hide behind here, if we're being completely honest. Boat and Dynasty just get a shooting range now that Alone is gone. This thing is over.
And Alone was the only one that could take down that bar, and now that's not even a possibility, so it seems like it's just a matter of time. It's more
You
space.
can't lose anymore.
Yeah, it's more space that is going to be controlled, and you don't even have to make it too far.
I mean, they took down the DPS, which is going to delay the cart a little bit longer here, so the job has been accomplished. They have netted themselves one more fight, one more attempt to stop this thing.
But it's going to be so difficult, right? No ultimates available coming up, just hoping to get a pick early on. And it seems like when we talk about picks, the ones that are constantly getting it early on is Northwood. On the side of SCAD, it seems like those ultimates are the win condition that they need right now, and they can't even have.
Oh, and Calman's position is so perfect. You can just build Gravitic Flux on the top of this building and then play for that here in a second. You can see, they don't care about the cart. They care about getting one pick with this fuck, and they've picked their target. Skiz is in the air, and Skiz is hitting the ground. The log of physics do remain true in Overwatch, but so does the log. Donnie, who takes down Dynasty in relatively quick fashion, thus getting a foot in the door, and a big enough one for SCAD to keep it close.
And there's a couple of trades as well that still try to take place here, but finally having to back up and finally trying to get some space to control. It seems like the side of SCAD, they're able to do it. They have a Shatter to work with next. Still 2 minutes, and again, it's a barrage coming up. It's Dragons, everything that is going to create the space that the side of Northwood is looking for.
I mean, let's put it this way. You just got to hit a fat combo. That's kind of all there is to it. They have a great position to do so, as they're going to play forward for it and try and aggress onto this high ground. They've got the bomb, they've got the Shatter, but can they stop the barrage? Yeah, no problem. That's effectively a suicide Q button these times. Season easily blocks the bomb, though. No Shatters there to follow up. 3 more ultimates remain now for the likes of SCAD. Is yet now, Northwood have held on to everything.
And I want to see that rally coming up first. Then a little bit of that combination as well with the Dragons. Just create a little bit of chaos, which is when Northwood shines most.
The Shatter's an attempt. The Dragon's going to force him into an uncomfortable situation. Skiz just can't interact with much here, to be completely honest. The Reinhardt kept it arms length, kept it bait, doesn't even get the opportunity to Shatter, and now this is it. Northwood have smelled blood in the water, and it's time to pounce. Taking down 1, 2, 3, they all will go. As the yellow box of victory nears ever closer, Northwood knocks SCAD right back down to the lower bracket.
This time, no one else, it seems like, can get close enough. Last opportunity, yes, for the Moria to make it happen. Trying to get stunned, but again, the opportunities are fading away for this side of SCAD. It's all about Northwood. It's all about left at the end. We see it at the beginning, we see it at the end, and it's going to close this map for this team.
Phenomenal play. And look, we said it might come down to the map picks, and it absolutely did. We saw a great one out of SCAD, but then we saw that favor absolutely returned there by Northwood. Yeah. Great map pick to take things on to Route 66. I mean, I brought it up earlier on. It's just kind of a perfect tool for being able to take down SCAD and force them into uncomfortable situations. Yeah. And then you just left gap them at the end, and it's all over.
You just, again, like you said, you put them in an uncomfortable positioning. They can't get out of it. They lose all their chances, and it even feels like that mental. After what we saw after that EMP getting canceled, it just wasn't the same to stay alive. I mean, you can't even lose a single fight that we saw towards the end. It was 2 fights. They had to be perfect, and they had to happen over and over again for SCAD to stand a chance in this map, and that was not the story that we got to see.
Yeah, SCAD's down, but they're certainly not out. There's a lower bracket floating around, and then go down there, swim with the fishes, because I know there are some piranhas down there looking to eat them up. These two teams played a great game, but SCAD has got a lot more ahead of them.
It's a team that has so much potential in it, and we got to see, I feel like, in Kings Row, right? When we got to see them again, they were having a little bit of momentum, they were having a little bit of variety as well, which was nice, and is bringing a team that people maybe are considering a dark horse that has the potential, that already showed the potential, but is what they can do in the lower bracket now.
Yeah, Northwood instead now gets to head to the upper bracket. The next match, Harrisburg versus ISU, arguably the single biggest one that we have had yet. A certifiable Dryad banger. You guys heard it here first. But we can get these wonderful, wonderful U.S. Air Force replays. Take a look at how this one came down. Fantastic peel from the team. We mentioned how little this Nano Monkey actually got done, and that's all thanks to Northwood's fantastic peel and some creative use of Bob from Boats as well later on.
Right.
Now getting into the mix, once more ultimates came on, you can see the EMP get canceled in the back as little. You brought up the mental aspect of getting your EMP canceled after 4 minutes. Dude, it hurts. It feels bad. We look ridiculous, but that's the only reaction to this kind of thing.
It's just, it's insanely frustrating to see something like this happens, but you know, sometimes you just have to go to these hard losses to see how the team is able to recover, which is, again, what we're hoping to see for this team in the lower bracket.
Yeah, and you know what? Down to the lower bracket they go. We've talked enough. It's time to send things over to the desk so you guys can look at Fawn cry over SCAD going down.
And go desk.
Are you crying, Fawn?
Yes, but that's crazy that he specifically named. I'm like, okay, like, look, I understand that I was like their number one person in their corner, but come on, man, the name drop of anything. Listen, I am crying, but it's okay. They'll be completely fine. They are in the losers bracket, so there's nothing it is they have to worry about too much. It's going to be a bit of a trek, a bit of a climb, but once again, losers bracket stories are where like all the magic happens.
Speaking of a climb, is trying to get taller or shorter? I don't know at this point.
Oh, I have no idea. That is a good point. I have no idea.
I want the predictions of how much the height differential will increase between those two by the end. Hopefully they don't let us down. Let's talk about the match though. Tears aside, emotions are great.
Right, of course.
It's good, healthy to express them. As we were getting toward the end of that last round, you were saying if SCAD holds here, they win.
Yes.
What was that about?
So typically towards the latter half of that fight, as you saw on Route 66, you see like towards the end of that fight that it doesn't necessarily go the way of their opponents. Instead, like as they're pushing, they sort of get team wiped. And the biggest thing there is that like I was expecting the cart to roll in, but they do end up getting a clutch kill. I don't remember who it was, but it actually builds up their ultimate economy. And when that happens, then you have to be a little bit more cautious because we saw Reinhardt like in the miss on Seasons, like just sort of holding, waiting for the shatter, waiting for the right moment, right? Not burning it a little bit too early, especially when I was yelling to burn it. So that's important, you know, having that presence of mind to be able to do that.
Hindsight's amazing.
Right, exactly. Absolutely perfect to be able to do that. So I'm during that hold is definitely like the biggest thing about that, right? Because if they do actually manage to lock them down, if they sort of just keep them towards their spawn area, it's going to be a lot harder for them to try and play retake, especially when they know the ultimate economy on the other side. You may not be able to see what their ult charge is, but you have an idea for when they may have it. It's like it's been a while, he hasn't really used it, he hasn't popped it. We should probably be a little bit more careful. He probably has it, especially when you tell how somebody's playing. You know when somebody has an ultimate as opposed to when they don't.
Well, we have the opportunity to hear it from the players themselves. We have Polly on the floor with players from Northwood. Polly, what you got?
Thank you so much, Anna, and welcome to the Collegiate Esports Commissioners Cup. I am down on the floor with Lep from Northwood University. You guys just clutched it out. You advanced 2-1 there over SCAD, which was an amazing competition. Tell us how you're feeling right now after that big-time win.
Feeling very fatigued. I got to start preparing to go into the next match. I can't be more happy for my team, though. At the end of the day, we pulled it through.
What started clicking? Because you lost one map there. You came back, you had the 2-1. But what started clicking? What was off in the beginning that kind of led to your success?
It's really just taking a step back and realizing and recognizing what they're doing and then learning to counter it. And then once I told the team the solution, then we were fine.
Cracked the code, took advantage. So you said you were tired and you were getting something to eat. What are you going to get to eat?
I'm going to go eat some Cajun food.
Woohoo! Cajun food for the man that's on fire. This is Lep. Congratulations, Northwood. They're going to advance at the Collegiate Esports Commissioners Cup. Over back to you guys.
Wow, very fatigued. I'm not surprised to hear that, but how do you think that's going to affect Northwood going forward? It makes sense.
So the biggest thing about any sort of competitive environment is the game is like you don't choose when you get to take your breaks a lot of the time, right? So feeling that fatigue, when you run out of steam, when that stuff happens, you sort of have to reach in the reserve, right? You got to have like the anime power up moment, right? Where it's like, I believe in my friends, you know, just like I believe in my friends, I can believe in my team, like I'm going to come through and I'm going to be able to win this, right? So it's going to take a lot of that sort of perspective because once again, this is a mental stack. These games go on for a while, especially when you include like whatever may end up happening, like outside of the game. Like it really becomes a big sort of weight on the players when you have to like, okay, I'm coming off, I'm coming back, I'm coming off, I'm coming back on, and like I'm just trying to fight. And especially when it goes to game 3, it really does start to weigh on people. So that fatigue really has to be like picked up like a lot. It sucks, but like that's how you have to sort of play it.
Right. It's a good reminder. Nothing is over for anyone at this point. SCAD goes down to the lower bracket. They're going to continue playing. They're going to play whoever doesn't succeed in our next match, which is Illinois State University versus Harrisburg University. We heard your predictions earlier. Felt like you favored Harrisburg.
Yeah. Yes, very well thought out, well researched prediction for me.
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely. But thinking that perhaps we will see SCAD go on to play Illinois State.
Yes.
What do you think they're going to need to do to kind of rally and get themselves back to the championship?
To be honest, there was a couple times where I feel like the fights that were sort of picked may not have been the best opportunities. There were a couple picks that ended up happening as well. It just sort of like, they had done a good job of making sure that they had at least stayed grounded towards the tail end of a lot of those fights, making sure they were able to clutch up, right? But it's more so the fact that like there were a lot of fights that I saw that like when their opponents were fighting them, like that they sort of just kept snowballing that, right? There were times where like a couple people had ended up getting picked, like a couple people had ended up getting picked on SCAD's side, and it just sort of started spiraling out of control, and then they have to have like that moment of like, wait, we need to ground ourselves, we have to hold on, like it's okay if they get this point, we have to pretty much play for the next one, right? And so that's something it is that I feel like has to be like cleaned up a little bit, because I felt like I was seeing that a lot throughout a lot of those matches, and so once again, like I feel like a more cohesiveness would be pretty good.
Well, out of curiosity, and I'm going to go not with you because your bias is
go ahead.
Blue. From you, obviously, you had some contradictions, I guess, in the analysis on it because of the team composition. In the later half, obviously, they took a map back, and then in that last one, it was pretty close. So from your perspective, like, is team composition going to be an issue, or is it going to just continue to be, for SCAD in particular in that lower bracket, like, they were pretty close to tying that up and actually closing it out. So
at the end of the day, I think it was just experience. Like, okay, so to give you, like, the actual picture that I'm going to paint for you. Here's the roster for Northwood, right? You got Seasons, plays in Contenders with Solaris. You have Cowman, plays in Contenders with Solaris. That's 2 players on the same collegiate team that have experience in Contenders on the same team together. And then you have Dynasty, who plays for the Uprising Academy in Contenders, which is like a straight path to the pros. And then you have Yimitra, who plays on Contenders with Drifters, which is a top 8 team. And then you have Boat, who plays on the Contenders team Drifters. So another duo that has collegiate and Contenders experience together with someone else on their team. And then the last player, Lep, who we heard talk, plays on a Contenders team named Revival. Who plays on a Contenders team for SCAD? The answer is no one. So they went up against 5 or 6 players that play at the second highest level of Overwatch in the world. And they took them to a map 3, and they almost pretty much full held them after they were almost pretty much full held on Route 66, right? So the best thing that happened for Harrisburg and Illinois State is that SCAD made that a very long match, right? They're fatigued. You heard it from Lep. He's going to get some Cajun food. And if Harrisburg and Illinois State...
Oh, I didn't forget. There's no way.
If Harrisburg and Illinois State go too long, or they go too short, that's a quick match. If it's 2-0 and there's no technical delays as much as there was, or at all, like there was in the first matchup, he better hope he comes out with the Ragin' Cajun food, because they will still be fatigued, and they might not look like a #1 seed, because fatigue is a real thing. And also another real thing is performing at LAN, which we just saw from SCAD. Right. Nobody coming into this was like, oh, SCAD's looking dangerous, you know? They're the #5 seed. There was a little bit of disrespect on all the teams below #4 in pretty much all 4 of the titles here. But like we've all said, the Lanimals come out on LAN, and that's what happened. SCAD proved themselves. So I think it's not based on the compositions going into that loser's bracket. No matter if they face Harrisburg or Illinois State, they feel like they have a good chance, and I feel like they have a good chance because they put up a fight.
Who wants it more?
Exactly.
It's a long day. Who wants it more? I love that.
I'm glad you also brought up the path to pro, because whether your school is looking to start a new esports program, increase support for a current program, or take it to the next level, Microsoft and CDW Education are here to help, from building spaces to program alignment and more. Head over to cdw.com/esports to learn more. And what better time to do that than during a quick break, after which we'll be back with more Overwatch. Stay tuned.